Chapter 1948. KKK. The energy ball spun rapidly, and the void began to distort and expand in the form of a vortex. The rampaging power distorted space and time, shattering the boundless sky. With Wang Su's flash, as the center, a pitch-black hole appeared in the void, radiating an intense gravitational force. Even the sunlight was sucked in, and in an instant the entire sky turned dark. Damn it, what's going on? Master Ban, who was controlling the mechanical green dragon in the sky, shouted in panic. He tried his best to control the mechanical green dragon to fly north, but the movement of the entire time and space had been rewritten, and the mechanical green dragon's huge body was constantly being pulled back. Master Ban was stunned when he turned his head to look. What's that? The void above Dustless's head was hazy, and a giant vortex appeared, constantly swallowing the sky within a radius of hundreds of kilometers. The white clouds and the clear sky were all crushed, as if the end of the world had arrived, and endless despair filled the air. The mechanical green dragon naturally couldn't escape, and it was about to be crushed by the dark hole. It's over if it's swallowed. Master Ban's heart was filled with despair. He looked at the flash in Dustless's hand with fear, and his heart was in his throat. Hurry up and knock that ball out of Dustless's hand. Master Ban, who was sweating profusely, ordered his assistant who was controlling the mechanical beast. He felt his blood boiling after being aimed at by the flash. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The mechanical green dragon flapped its wings, and countless wooden explosives shot out again at Dustless in unison. This is the last farewell, Master Ban? Dustless raised his eyelids and glanced at the incoming missiles. The flash condensed in his right hand flicked out with his finger. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Wherever the golden light touched, the void shattered and collapsed in droves. The blue sky was horrifying as if it had been cut into pieces by a peerless divine sword. Really, it's too easy for you guys. Dying to this move, it's not in vain for us to know each other. Dustless said uninterestedly after letting out a breath of cold air. Although Dustless's void flash could be used by all great voids above the level of Ajuchas, in terms of density, the void flash used by Dustless was dozens of times more powerful than Vastolord's. After devouring the Hogyoku and the Spirit King, Dustless himself did not know how much spiritual pressure he had accumulated. It's all over now. Seeing the thick beam of light, Master Ban's heart was dead silent. It was too late for regrets. He could not help but blame Zhang Liang. If he had not cooperated with Quicksand to enrage Dustless, he would not have ended up like this. Boom boom boom. The mechanical green dragon was struck head-on, and the sky within a radius of dozens of miles trembled violently. A huge crater appeared in the sky, and the energy ripples that spread out destroyed the surrounding mountains, leveling them to the ground. The energy ripples that spread out in all directions set off an unprecedented storm that swept across the vast sky. Everything that came into contact with it suffered a devastating blow. It seems that I used too much force. Looking at the crater in the sky that was nearly 10 kilometers long had been blasted into a black hole by Dustless's void flash. The blue sky had an abyss that could never be repaired. Everyone from the school of Yin-Yang looked at Dustless in horror. Their faces were blank and dazed. Then they looked at the shocking crack in the sky. It was obviously a natural disaster. Could a human do such a thing? Wasn't this too strange? What are you all looking at? Hurry up and deal with those mechanical white tigers. Seeing everyone staring at him in a daze, Dustless scolded loudly. There were no flowers on his face, so what was there to look at? If they had the time to be in a daze, they might as well take this opportunity to destroy the last of the school of Mo's mechanical beasts. After this battle, the school of Mo will only exist in name. Looking at Dustless, Yueshin's lips trembled as she spoke. She thought to herself, luckily the school of Yin-Yang didn't stand against this guy back then. Otherwise, thinking about what would happen to the school of Mo, Yueshin couldn't help but tremble. Roar 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 roar. From the depths of the valley, the hysterical roars of the mechanical white tigers could be heard. Looking over, the valley where the Qin army and the mechanical beasts were fighting had become a dead end. The corpses of the Golden Fire cavalry were everywhere, forming mountains and flowing rivers of blood. It's just as I thought. These good-for-nothings might be able to take down a city, but against the mechanical beasts, they will only die. None of the mechanical beasts of the school of Mo were killed. In just 10 minutes, around 700 to 800 Qin soldiers were slaughtered. Corpses and blood were everywhere, and the air was filled with the smell of blood. Roar 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 roar. Noticing the appearance of Dustless and the others, more than 20 mechanical white tigers suddenly swooped down, and their bloody fangs were open to the extreme. These guys are really greedy. It's already a great victory to wipe out 700 to 800 Qin soldiers, but they still want to destroy us as well. Just like before, Dustless raised his right hand again and formed a handprint. Immortal Art, Ming Xing Gate. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Countless red logs fell from the sky. They were so fast that there was no way to escape. The mechanical white tigers were annihilated in an instant, and the mighty and domineering white tigers became scrap metal that no one cared about. Other than Tianming, there seems to be Big Hammer and Robber Ji left in the school of Mo. Muttering, Dustless and the others continued to move forward. Duanmu Rong and the Snow Lady were no longer part of the school of Mo, otherwise, they wouldn't have been locked up. Stop. At this moment, a crisp and unfriendly voice stopped Dustless. Shifting his gaze, an unexpected face invaded Dustless's eyes. Are you the last reinforcement? Qilian? But what's the use of you? Are you here to beg for mercy? Chapter 1949. Surrender? Qilian sneered and said, I'm sorry, Dustless. I don't intend to surrender yet. That means, you intend to fight? TSK, humans are such mysterious creatures. They know they're digging their own graves, but they don't give up. Apart from being a little stupid, what's so special about them? Wu Chen stared at Qilian calmly. His lips were squirming. When he was about to open his mouth again, Qilian suddenly waved his hand toward the jungle. Come, bring little sister Snow Lady out for me. Qilian smiled very calmly with a smug smile on his face. Thud, thud, thud. Suddenly, a series of messy footsteps sounded from the forest. Then the Snow Lady, who was tied up, came into view. You intend to threaten me? Dustless warned with a cold look in his eyes. Perhaps if you kneel down and beg me, I might let you go. However, you chose another extreme method. That's too contradictory. Qilian smiled even more happily. He blinked and said, Snow Lady is from the Mo family. What does that have to do with you? If I remember correctly, you should be from the school of Yin Yang. You're their leader. Snow Lady opened her mouth. Her expression was a little awkward, as if she found it hard to speak. Finally, she lowered her head. Where's Ronger? Dustless raised his eyebrows when he didn't see Duanmu Rong. His main goal was Duanmu Rong and Snow Lady. Destroying the Mo family was just a matter of convenience. Her? Qilian didn't mince his words. Snow Lady is enough to keep her as a hostage. As for Duanmu Rong, she's a good trump card. Such a despicable plan, it was Wei Zhuang who came up with it, right? He's always been unscrupulous, the moon goddess said. Despicable? Unscrupulous? Qilian laughed disapprovingly and mocked, We're despicable, perhaps. However, what right does your school of Yin Yang have to call others despicable? Let's stop chatting. Dustless was too lazy to talk nonsense with Qilian. He said to himself, since Wei Zhuang took Ronger to threaten me then, Dustless stared at Qilian with an oppressive gaze. His body disappeared in an instant and reappeared in front of Qilian in a flash. Then I can only capture you alive to threaten Wei Zhuang. So fast. Qilian's pupils suddenly froze. Seeing Dustless suddenly descend like lightning, he hurriedly reached for the thin and soft long sword at his waist, but it was already too late. Cough, cough, cough. Crimson Viper helplessly discovered that her neck had been tightly grasped by Dustless. She was coughing incessantly. Not to mention drawing her sword to attack, even breathing was extremely difficult for her. Let go of me. Are you going to watch as the Snow Maidens get killed? Crimson Viper struggled violently. Her slender legs were almost completely exposed to Dustless's eyes. Due to her violent struggle, the places deep inside her thighs that should not be seen were vaguely visible. Is that so? A wisp of a ridiculing smile flashed on Wu Chen's face when he heard this, and then he pointed at the direction Snow Maiden had been captured and teased. Young Miss Qilian, please take a closer look. Remember, open your eyes wide this time. You! Anger flashed across Qilian's pretty face when Dustless looked at her with a mocking gaze. That contemptuous gaze was filled with mockery and ridicule, as if he was looking at a plaything. Don't worry about me. Kill the Snow Maidens for me. The infuriated Qilian waved her hand and ordered furiously. Her imposing manner showed that she wanted to perish together with Dustless and head to the netherworld together. However, the tragic thing was that after a few seconds of giving the order, no one responded to Qilian. Damn it. Seeing this, Qilian abruptly turned her head around, only to be stunned to discover that the few Mo clan disciples who had followed her here had all fallen to the ground at some unknown time, their eyes rolling up into the back of their heads. When did this start? Qilian's eyes widened in disbelief. She did not even feel the slightest movement. When did it start? Looking at Qilian with pity, Dustless smiled and said, "There is no need to answer this question. Didn't it already start when you saw me?" With a sinister glow in his eyes, Dustless grabbed Qilian's chin and warned her fiercely, "Tell me, where did the Mahist disciples and that brat Wei Zhuang go?" "In your dreams." Hearing this, Qilian did not even look at Dustless. She simply turned her head away and did not even bother to look at Dustless. "Yo, you have a tough temper. I like women like this. Conquering them gives me a sense of accomplishment." "Hee hee." Dustless smiled calmly and said to the moon goddess and the others behind him with a sinister look, "You guys back off first. I want to have a good talk with Miss Qilian." The people from the school of Yin Yang looked at each other and speechlessly looked at Dustless. Even with the temperament of the moon goddess and concubine Yin, they were embarrassed and blushed slightly. Naturally, they knew what Dustless was talking about. "Rascal." Young Master Ming and Great Master Ming snorted in dissatisfaction. However, they did as they were told and took the initiative to leave Dustless and Qilian, giving them the home ground. "Don't mess around." Qilian's pretty face darkened. If she still did not know what Dustless meant, she would have lived for decades in vain. "I like to mess around, especially with people like you who like to resist me." Dustless started to undress on purpose, revealing his muscular body. "Stop it, I will tell you where they are." Qilian immediately panicked when she saw this. She still had Wei Zhuang in her heart. It didn't matter if she was killed, but if she was captured alive by Wu Chen and her body was sullied, it would be more painful than killing her. Chapter 1950. Hee hee. Dustless's eyes couldn't help but darken when he heard Qilian admitting defeat. He put on his shirt again and said uninterestedly, "Seriously, I'm not used to you being so obedient all of a sudden. I originally wanted to play some interesting games with you. Alright, let's cut the crap." Miss Qilian confessed. Looking at Qilian's pretty face that was filled with unwillingness, Dustless felt rather comfortable in his heart. He was indeed scaring Qilian, but it was undeniable that sometimes, the most despicable method was the most useful. They went to the farmer's home. After pondering for a while, Qilian gave an answer that made Dustless frown. She continued, "I only know this much. If you don't believe me, you can kill me." Farmer's home? There are many people in the farmer's home. Lai Mountain clan, Chiyu clan, Gonggong clan. There are a total of 6 clans. Don't you have more detailed information? Dustless was very dissatisfied with Qilian's answer. "Let me repeat myself. I only know this much, little brother Dustless." Qilian shrugged and said calmly, "If you continue to threaten me with the despicable means just now, I will bite my tongue and commit suicide. You can only die if I let you. If I let you live, you have to live." After looking at Qilian coldly, Dustless looked at young Master Ming. That subtle look was clearly hinting for young Master Ming to capture Qilian as a hostage. Wei Zhuang could capture Duanmu Rong as a hostage. Dustless could also capture Qilian as a hostage and give her a taste of her own medicine. Also watch your tone. Don't call me little brother. I may be young, but your ancestors had to call me Grandpa Dustless when they saw me. After looking at Qilian coldly, Dustless left in a huff. After Dustless left, Moon Goddess and the rest couldn't help but laugh. Dustless's "call me Grandpa Dustless" was too funny. "You bastard." However, as the person involved, Qilian was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. Her delicate face turned red and frosty. Unfortunately, she was already tied up by Xiaoxi Ming. Otherwise, she wouldn't mind starting a life-and-death battle with Dustless. "Little guy, if I can't even deal with you, then I've lived for so long in vain." Dustless muttered to himself as he leisurely glanced at Qilian's ashen face. Then, he slowly walked toward the Snow Lady with a faint smile on his face. There was a rare trace of gentleness on his face. "Snow Lady, Unfortunately, before Dustless could finish his sentence, the Snow Lady walked towards the isolated carriage with a look of hatred on her face. One of the young men with a lifeless aura attracted the Snow Lady's attention. "People from the Mo family? Do you need something from me?" Looking at the approaching Snow Lady, the pale-faced young man raised his head in confusion. The Snow Lady's murderous look made it seem like she had a blood feud with him. "Xinghan, I want to avenge little Gao. How dare you throw him into the sea to feed the fish?" Towards the end, the Snow Lady's eyes were already filled with tears. Nonsense, little gal. I don't even know him. Xing Hun snorted coldly and didn't look at the snow lady anymore. Is there something wrong with this woman? He didn't even know little gal. Xing Hun, you killed my husband. I want to avenge him. At the same time, concubine Yen walked over quickly with a cold look on her face. Without exception, the snow lady and concubine Yan's eyes were filled with hostility. Are the two of you crazy women sick? Who killed your husband? Get to the bottom of this. Veins popped out on Xing Hun's forehead. He felt as if he had been shot while lying down. Xing Hun knew concubine Yan's husband, Yan Dan. As for the little gal that the snow lady mentioned, after thinking about it carefully, the person of the opposite sex that she was closest to was undoubtedly Gao Jianli. Most importantly, I didn't do anything. How can you bully me like this? Don't slander me. Although I can't wait to kill Yan Dan and Gao Jianli, I didn't kill them at all, Xing Hun retorted with a red face. What a joke. He couldn't bear such a huge trap. Especially when concubine Yen and the snow lady were gnashing their teeth and glaring at him with hatred. Xing Hun's rationality told him that he couldn't admit it even if he was beaten to death. Xing Hun, you bastard. How dare you deny killing people? At this moment, Dustless, who was afraid of being exposed, interrupted sternly with a righteous expression. I saw you throw little Gao into the sea to feed the fish with my own eyes. I saw you kill the Mo family's Yan Dan with my own eyes. How dare you deny it? You deserve a beating. Slap, slap, slap. Dustless took advantage of Xing Hun's stunned state and gave him 2 big slaps. You. Xing Hun was enraged. He glared at Dustless with reddened eyes. He realized sadly that he couldn't even speak properly. His mouth was filled with the pungent smell of blood, and he had even lost a few teeth. Humph, I'll take your silence as a yes. There's nothing more to say. Concubine Yen and the snow lady, send him on his way. This brat is so deranged. He deserves such a fate. Xing Hun's mouth twitched when he heard that. He spat out a mouthful of blood and trembled with anger. This damn bastard. He must have killed Yan Dan and Gao Jianli and purposely framed me for this groundless crime. Xing Hun wanted to cry but had no tears. Dustless had purposely slapped him until his mouth was crooked. He couldn't speak and could only scream in his heart. Really? The snow lady and concubine Yen were overjoyed. They looked at Dustless with gratitude. Do it. Xing Hun is a despicable person. He's a disgrace to the Yin-Yang family. Dustless waved his hand and turned his back to Xing Hun, indicating that the 2 women could attack. Xing Hun, you can die in peace. I'll spend a lot of money to hire someone to send you to hell secretly. Dustless prayed silently. He could only let Xing Hun take the blame for him. Chapter 1951. Bastard. Looking at the approaching duo, Xing Hun began to struggle with all his might. However, he was covered in chains that were thicker than his arms and legs. His resistance was futile. Swish, 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 swish. Xing Hun's body bled profusely after receiving a fatal attack. His skin and flesh were clearly torn apart. Even his bones could be seen clearly. You're still not dead? Realizing that Xing Hun was still gasping for air, Dustless had no choice but to be the executioner. His eyes were filled with coldness. In this world, you are the only one who can enjoy this honor. Xing Hun, Tsukuyami. Dustless activated his eye power. Then the world in front of Xing Hun turned upside down. He had arrived at an unfamiliar world where he was the only protagonist. No matter what, he had taken the blame for Wu Qin once. It was rare for Wu Qin to be so kind and give Xing Hun a euthanasia. It was barely right for this kid. Wu Qin hoped that Xing Hun could rest in peace in the netherworld. Deep in the wild mountains, the environment was so quiet that it was like a pool of stagnant water. Bright and dazzling gazes occasionally shone in some particularly hidden places. If one looked over, they would see the disciples of the School of Agriculture who were tense and on guard everywhere. Deep in the mountains, in a small wooden house that looked quite old, there was a disgusted voice. Who allowed you to trespass into the farmer clan's territory? Inside the wooden house, Chiyu Hall Master Tian who crossed his arms in front of him. His eyes were filled with arrogance. A majestic aura gathered around him. He looked like he would start a fight at any moment. This is the farmer clan. You are not welcome here. Gonggong Hall Master Tianzhong also joined in the commotion. He stared at the few people in front of him and did not hide his hostility at all. The remaining members of the Mo family and the remnants of the Quicksand army. The alliance between the two is just a defeated army. The figures standing in front of Tian Hu and Tian Zhong were Wei Zhuang and the others who had luckily escaped from the Mo family's stronghold, as well as Gunya, Tianming, Xiaoyu and their retainers. Gentlemen, we are all members of the Anti-Qin Alliance. Why do we have to separate you and me? We have a common enemy. Zhang Liang calmly stepped forward to mediate. Although he concealed it very well, his turbid eyes still revealed fatigue and haggard. Both his mind and body had been ravaged by Dustless. Who could remain unscathed? What a joke. Just because we share the same standpoint, does our farmers' clan have to take you in? Do I have to help you guys as a matter of course? Stop dreaming. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. If you want us to take you in, we can do that, but you have to pay a price. Tian Hu didn't give Zhang Liang any face. Even blood brothers had to settle accounts clearly. Moreover, it was very risky to take in this group of survivors. Of course. Since we're staying overnight at a farmer's house, we have to pay for the lodging. Everyone don't worry. Perhaps after tomorrow, Dustless will disappear from this world. Zhang Liang stood with his hands clasped behind his back. With a mysterious smile, he was extremely cunning. The next morning, the sun shone brightly through the small cracks on the window and shone on the thick blanket. With the faint light, one could vaguely see the white toes. Young Master Ming, don't put your legs on my stomach. Great Master Ming, don't touch me with your hands. Dustless's dissatisfied voice came from the warm blanket. Last night, the three of them huddled together naked. Until now, Dustless was still in a daze. There was a saying that the colder a woman was, the harder it was to satisfy her ambitions in certain aspects. Young Master Ming and Great Master Ming were such women. They were used to keeping people at arm's length. Now that they were released, they were like hungry tigers that wanted to devour Dustless. But the strong and sturdy Dustless finally withstood it, completely blocking the two of them, taking turns to tire him out. Even though the three of them slept in each other's arms, they didn't feel embarrassed or awkward. Different times also determined that everyone's value in life was different. Needless to say, Wu Chen's skin was unbelievably thick. He was used to it. Although young Master Ming and Great Master Ming were extremely resistant at first, they couldn't stand Dustless's sugar-coated bullets and finally gave in. Knock knock. At the same time, there was an anxious knock on the door. Dustless, get up quickly. Something bad has happened. Zhao Gao and Li Si are here with their troops. Concubine Yan's voice was filled with worry. They have surrounded the entire Mirage and are clamoring to capture the wanted criminal Dustless. My identity has been exposed? Upon hearing this, Dustless lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then he put on his clothes in an orderly manner. Young Master Ming and Great Master Ming, on the other hand, quickly put on their clothes with anxious expressions. Zhao Gao must have known your true identity and has sufficient evidence. Otherwise, he wouldn't have surrounded the Mirage with his troops. This is the sacred place for alchemy appointed by Ying Zheng. Great Master Ming was so flustered that he even put on his clothes inside out. Dustless couldn't help but laugh. Your lazy attitude will get you into trouble sooner or later. Young Master Ming was also dissatisfied with Dustless. She moved her body slightly and almost fell down. It was all because of Dustless's ridiculous behavior last night. He kept tormenting her and Great Master Ming. Don't be afraid. Calm down. Don't forget that the Mirage is now the territory of the school of Yin Yang. Dustless said with great confidence when he saw the two women's embarrassment. What's there to be afraid of? So what if Zhao Gao and Li Si find out? If it doesn't work, we can just overthrow the Qin dynasty. No matter when, where and what kind of emergency happens, we are invincible. Chapter 1952. As for why Zhao Gao and Li Si suddenly knew his identity, it was obvious that someone from the Mo family had leaked the news through a secret channel. That was how Zhao Gao and Li Si found out that Zichen was Dustless. That was why these two hungry wolves came uninvited. Overthrow the Qin kingdom? Young Master Ming and Great Master Ming looked at each other and nodded. If things really developed to this stage, it would not be difficult to destroy the Qin kingdom. The Qin kingdom was a giant, but the school of Yin Yang was not to be trifled with. Let's go. Let's see if Zhao Gao and Li Si can really do anything. Holding young Master Ming and Great Master Ming's hands, Dustless swaggered out of the bedroom. His carefree and relaxed look made it seem as if Zhao Gao and Li Si were caught and Dustless was the executioner. This guy, Concubine Yen, secretly had a headache. Looking at the groups of Qin soldiers through the window, she felt uneasy. I can only bite the bullet and do it. After a while, the indecisiveness in Concubine Yan's eyes disappeared. Since things had developed to this stage, she could only follow Dustless's footsteps. It's been an hour. That guy still dares to wait for us. How dare he? In the brightly lit hall, Zhao Gao noticed that Dustless was not coming. His patience was gradually wearing out. He and Li Si came to look for trouble early in the morning, but Dustless did not come. Obviously he did it on purpose. We're not waiting anymore. Send someone to find Dustless immediately. Li Si's face was also hazy. He was the dignified prime minister and Wu Chen was merely a criminal. He actually made him wait for a full hour. This was simply a crime deserving of 10,000 deaths. Search? Who gave you the confidence to do whatever you want? At this moment, a burst of cold air swept over everyone. Everyone stopped in their tracks and looked towards the source of the wind and waves. Zichen. After seeing who it was, Li Si questioned, Zichen, someone said that your real identity is that of the wanted criminal Dustless, and all the evidence has been sent over. What else do you have to say? Zhao Gao also looked unfriendly. At the same time he made a subtle gesture to the slave of the 6 swords, which meant that if Dustless used force, he would immediately subdue him. Ah, is that so? Lord Li's long-cherished wish has been fulfilled. This is truly worthy of celebration. However, who would have thought that Wu Chen only laughed out in an uncharacteristic manner, followed by a sudden sentence that made Li Si, Zhao Gao, and the others so shocked that they were fried on the inside and tender on the outside. That's right, I'm that rebellious Dustless. What can you do to me? Zhao Gao, Li Si, and the 6 sword slaves all stared blankly at Wu Chen, who had an arrogant look on his face. Wu Chen's words were like a level 10 storm that swept past everyone's ears in an instant. His unruly face was obviously saying, I'm a rebellious thief. What can you do to me? Bastard, how dare a rebellious thief be so arrogant? Zhao Gao, take him down. Li Si was the first to react. His face was as dark as the lid of a pot. Dustless revealed his real identity without any hesitation, which was actually looking down on him and Zhao Gao. You 6, hurry up and capture Wu Chen. I don't care if he's dead or alive. With a wave of his hand, Zhao Gao immediately ordered the 6 sword slaves to attack. Swish, swish. Do it. Without even looking at the 6 sword slaves, Dustless coldly said, don't leave them alive. Just kill them all. They're as annoying as flies. Great Master Ming, Young Master Ming, Moon Goddess, and Concubine Yen didn't waste any time. They all used their techniques and spells to fight the 6 sword slaves who were attacking them from the front. Swish, 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 swish. The 6 sword slaves were good at fighting as a team, but it was still difficult for them to defeat the school of Yin Yang one-on-one. In less than a minute after the battle started, the 6 sword slaves were already losing. This is bad. Seeing this, Li Si and Zhao Gao's expressions changed drastically. A large number of Qin state soldiers were still outside the Mirage, and they didn't have time to support them. Of course, the reason for all this was because Wu Chen didn't play by the rules. If it were other people, they would rather be beaten to death than admit that they were traitors. But who would have thought that Wu Chen's way of doing things would be so unexpected? He simply admitted his identity. Li Si and Zhao Gao were both caught off guard. They did not expect that Wu Chen would directly shed all pretenses. Bang! A black shadow was hit by a powerful attack and flew out, smashing the wooden door into pieces. Trash. When Zhao Gao saw Wanchen in a sorry state, he scolded him in a bad mood. Not to mention the unfathomable Wu Chen, even the 4 top experts of the Yin Yang school would have a hard time dealing with him. If Wu Chen was added into the mix, Zhao Gao felt a chill down his spine. He suddenly realized that he was too reckless. He didn't think carefully before challenging Dustless. He was facing the risk of being annihilated by this guy. This useless good-for-nothing. Where did your confidence go? Trash. Staring fixedly at Zhao Gao, whose eyes flickered indeterminately, Li Si also understood that he had been tricked by this fellow. Before leaving, Zhao Gao had solemnly guaranteed that he would definitely be able to capture Wu Chen. But according to the current situation, the fact that the few of them were not killed by Wu Chen was already considered a blessing from the heavens. Li Si was so nervous that he was sweating. After all, he was the weakest in this group. If Dustless wanted to kill him, Li Si would definitely be the first one to suffer. Chapter 1953. Your Excellency, you're in a very bad situation. Seeing Li Si sweating profusely and smelling of sweat, Dustless teased, You haven't bathed for hundreds of years. Your body smells so bad. I'm afraid no one will eat you if you're thrown into the sea to feed the fish. You bastard, don't be too complacent. Even if you kill us, you won't have a good ending. All the land in the world belongs to the king, and all the people in the land are the king's subjects. If you kill me, can you still stand in this world? Li Si looked straight into Wu Chen's eyes without showing any signs of weakness. He looked completely fearless, but anyone could tell that in reality, Li Si did not have enough confidence. After all, Li Si was also immortal. It was normal for him to be afraid of death. The higher he stood, the more respected he was. He was far more afraid of death than ordinary people. It was not easy for him to climb to his current position. If he died before he could enjoy it, who could tolerate it? He. Dustless smiled calmly at Li Si's threat and said lightly, Your Excellency, you've been wrong about one thing from the beginning to the end. First of all, the future is not something you can control. You only need to know that you're going to hell soon. Other trivial things can be discussed later. Swish, swish, swish. After saying that, Dustless flashed and came in front of Li Si. A pair of big hands went straight for Li Si's head. By the way, suddenly thinking of something, Dustless asked, By the way, where is my Yellowstone Heavenly Book? I've lent it to you two for so long. It's time to return it to me, right? Hearing that, Li Si's face was gloomy. He stared at Dustless and asked in a deep voice, Why are you sure that the Yellowstone Heavenly Book is in my hands? It may have been taken by Zhao Gao. Bastard. Zhao Gao cursed Li Si's shamelessness in his heart. At this time, the fire was about to burn his ass, but Li Si still wanted to hurt each other. Zhao Gao? Glancing at Zhao Gao, whose face was as black as a pot, Dustless sneered, He's just a lackey. Even if he had that kind of thing, he would give it to his master. Pucci. Seeing that Li Si was so disobedient, Dustless simply pierced his chest. Li Si let out a tormented scream. His face instantly turned as pale as a sheet of paper, and his body swayed back and forth as if he would fall at any moment. Minister Gua, are you still not going to call him out? Next time it might be your head, Dustless threatened in a calm tone, but the coldness in his voice made Li Si's heart turn cold. I understand. Looking at Dustless with fear in his eyes, Li Si finally chose to compromise. He took out a delicately decorated box and threw it to Dustless unwillingly. Sigh. After spending so much effort, in the end, this fellow still benefited from it, Li Si lamented in his heart. For the Yellowstone Heavenly Book, he and Zhao Gao had even plotted to kill Sun Zi. Before they could even warm up the Yellowstone Heavenly Book, it was taken away by Dustless. Snatch my things? With just the two of you? Looking straight at Li Si's dim eyes, Dustless could vaguely see through his thoughts. What's mine will always be mine. Trying to snatch it is just asking for humiliation. After retracting the Yellowstone Heavenly Book, Dustless was just about to raise his blade and end Li Si's life when an unexpected voice suddenly came out of nowhere. Master Zichen. No, Master Dustless, on account of me, can you let Li Xianghua off this time? An extremely refined voice came from outside the hall. Dustless turned his head to look, and saw an anxious Fu Su and Xiao Meng behind him. Li Si and Zhao Gao wanted to kill me. If I still let the two of them live, wouldn't this be raising a tiger and inviting calamity? Wu Chen said with a frown. The implication of his words was to reject Fu Su's conditions. Dustless, how dare you? Seeing this, Zhao Gao's voice was stern as he angrily rebuked, You actually dare to speak to young master like that, do you believe? You're courting death. Hearing this, Dustless's eyes shot out a scarlet light, and his body overflowed with a resplendent golden light. In an instant he appeared in front of Zhao Gao and slapped him twice without hesitation. Pa pa pa. Two blood-red handprints immediately appeared on Zhao Gao's face. You dare to hit me? Zhao Gao was furious. He covered his bleeding mouth and clenched his fists so tightly that creaking sounds could be heard. Hit you? So what if I hit you? I'm going to kill you later. Dustless pointed his sword at Zhao Gao's throat and coldly snorted, In this world, those who want to order me around can go see a ghost. This fellow is quite bold. He actually dares to say such words in front of Fu Su. Is the Yinyang school also going to step on the path of rebelling against the Qin kingdom? Xiao Ming's calm eyes flashed with a faint ripple. To dare say such words in front of Dustless, it was enough to see that Dustless did not put the Qin kingdom in his eyes. Master Dustless, let's talk things over. Fu Su's face flashed with displeasure, but he still forced a smile and persuaded, We're all on the same side. There might be some misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Zhao Gao was instantly unhappy when he heard this. He quickly reported to Fu Su, Young master, you don't know. This Zichen's true identity is a wanted criminal of the Qin kingdom. He was previously with the Mo family's traitor, Dustless. As his voice fell, Zhao Gao looked at Dustless with hatred, hoping that Fu Su would give the order to capture Dustless. But as the saying goes, dreams are beautiful, but the real world is often cruel. Shut up. Who knew that Fu Su did not blame Dustless? Instead, he quickly walked over and imitated Dustless and gave Zhao Gao a slap. Chapter 1954. Young Master you? Zhao Gao shuddered. Forget about Wu Qin giving him a slap, even Fu Su did the same. Where was Zhao Gao's face? His heart was filled with hatred towards the two of them. Damn you, I will tear you into pieces and feed your corpses to the dogs. Seeing the cold face of Fu Su, Zhao Gao swore in his heart that if he had the chance in the future, he would make Fu Su and Dustless die a horrible death. These two damn things made him lose face and become a laughing stock. They were unforgivable. Remember, Master Dustless is not a traitor. Fu Su warned coldly. Then he looked at Li Si and explained, Li Si, you are the Prime Minister. How can you not differentiate right from wrong? Young Master, Li Si was speechless. Was he the one who couldn't differentiate right from wrong? Zichen was undoubtedly Dustless. Li Si had obtained clear evidence. But since Fu Su said so, Li Si could only lower his head and admit defeat. If he argued with Fu Su, wouldn't he just be asking for humiliation? After all, Fu Su was the successor of the empire and had a respected status. Zhao Gao was a living example. He had to endure being slapped. Do you have something that you can't say? Noticing Li Si's hesitation, Fu Su was even more dissatisfied. He frowned and said, Speak your mind. What are these guys trying to do? Seeing the situation, Dustless was in a dilemma. After Fu Su's intervention, everything seemed to have gone wrong. Originally, Dustless thought that Fu Su was here to help Li Si and Zhao Gao. But the result was the opposite. Hearing this, Li Si opened his mouth and glanced at Zhao Gao. He seemed to have made some kind of decision, and the hesitation in his eyes instantly disappeared. Damn Li Si. Seeing this, Zhao Gao's heart skipped a beat. Seeing the faint smile on Li Si's face, he became even more uneasy. Young Master, this matter? Looking coldly at Zhao Gao, Li Si gritted his teeth and said, It was Zhao Gao's carelessness. It has nothing to do with me. Ka. Hearing this, Zhao Gao, who could not take the blow, gritted his teeth. How can Li Si be so shameless? Everyone says that politicians turn their backs on people. The ancients really didn't lie to me. Zhao Gao wailed in his heart. At this moment he hated Li Si to the core. When they first found out that Zichen was Dustless, out of caution, Zhao Gao suggested that they investigate in secret for a period of time. However, Li Si was impatient and insisted on finding trouble with Dustless, which led to this current situation. Sadly, Li Si now pushed all the blame to Zhao Gao. Li Si naturally noticed Zhao Gao's abnormal behavior. Seeing his appearance of gnashing his teeth, Li Si snorted unreservedly and secretly laughed in his heart. I can't take care of Wu Qin, but could it be that I can't even take care of a slave like you? Noticing Li Si's warning gaze, Zhao Gao smiled awkwardly and acted as if nothing had happened. He didn't return to normal, but his heart was bleeding. The ancient society was like this. There was a strict hierarchy and one level would crush the other. Even if there were thousands of dissatisfaction, Zhao Gao could only admit that he was unlucky. Rice bucket, what's the use of having you? Hearing this, Fu Su glared at Zhao Gao and scolded, Men, take Zhao Gao away and beat him 20 times. Yes, young master. The soldiers brought by Fu Su took Zhao Gao away without hesitation. Even if this guy's strength was shocking, Zhao Gao didn't dare to resist. One was the crown prince of the empire, the future successor, and he, Zhao Gao, was just a slave. The two of them belonged to completely different dimensions. Master Dustless, everything in the past was a misunderstanding. Let the past be the past. Fu Su looked at Dustless with a smile. In reality, he knew that Dustless was a wanted criminal, but as the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Fu Su naturally understood this. Dustless was standing against the anti-Qin alliance, and he was also the leader of the school of Yinyang. That meant that he was a friend of the Qin Empire. Fu Su also understood that if he kicked the school of Yinyang out of the Qin Empire's camp, it would be disadvantageous to his side. Sacrificing Zhao Gao was nothing. Everyone knew that he had to choose the lesser of two evils. Then my arrest warrant? Master, don't worry. Before coming, I had already sent people to remove it. You are free now. Fu Su had a sincere smile. Then he asked, What does Master think of the school of family? Dustless was silent for a moment and then said coldly, They are ambitious and should be punished. Master, you are right. Hearing this, the rock on Fusu's chest disappeared. The reason why he sacrificed Zhao Gao for Dustless was because he felt that Dustless was someone worth cooperating with. There was no conflict of interest between them. Everyone had the same goal. That was why they could jump into the same trench to face the enemy together. Master Xiaomeng, what do you think? Fusu looked at Xiaomeng, who was aloof from the world. But the latter didn't appreciate it. She just glanced at Fusu, who had a sincere expression and didn't show any emotion. In Xiaomeng's eyes, young Master Fusu was no different from an ordinary person. I have no interest in the grudges between the school of family and the Qin Empire, as well as the Mo family. But... She paused and then said coldly, my goal is only Xiao Yaozi. Xiao Yaozi? Dustless frowned and stared at the sword in Xiaomeng's hand. This sword belonged to Xiao Yaozi. For Xiaomeng to have it meant that she had killed Xiao Yaozi. But from her tone, Xiao Yaozi didn't seem to be dead. Chapter 1955. Anyway, the matter of Taoism has nothing to do with me. You can live or die as you wish. On second thought, Dustless put on a bored look as if it had nothing to do with him. The conflict between Taoism, Heaven Sect and Human Sect had nothing to do with him. Dustless gathered everyone together to create a steel alliance. Dustless did not care. It was good to share information. The School of Farmer had too many disciples. Dustless still did not know where the base of the School of Farmer was. The Qin army was powerful and would know the whereabouts of the School of Farmer. Ouch. At the same time, Zhao Gao walked in with a bitter face. Looking at his painful appearance, it was obvious that he was badly injured. 20 beatings were enough to kill a normal person easily. But to some extent, Fusu had deliberately let him go. According to the laws of Qin, Zhao Gao was already sentenced to death. Among the 6 states, Qin had the strictest laws. Damn Li Si. Seeing Li Si's cold face as if everything had nothing to do with him, Zhao Gao wanted to eat his flesh and drink his blood. At the same time, his desire for power grew deeper. Because Zhao Gao's status was not as high as Li Si, he was bullied by Li Si. One was the prime minister, the other was just a magistrate. How could they be compared? Therefore, after Li Si's interference, Zhao Gao valued power more. When Wu Qin saw Zhao Gao's miserable face, he smiled but didn't say anything. He walked lazily to the front of the window and looked at the distant scenery in boredom. Something is wrong. After a while, Dustless raised his eyebrows. He suddenly realized that the security of the entire Mulberry Sea city was much tighter than before. A while ago it was just the ordinary Qin cavalry. Why are they all changed to the Golden Fire cavalry today? And this formation doesn't seem right. Dustless's eyes revealed a look of contemplation as he muttered to himself, such a grand display? Is Ying Zhang, that old man, coming? If it is true, I am really looking forward to it. Everyone was curious and fearful of the legendary emperor. Even Dustless was curious about this legendary emperor. After all, he was the first emperor in history. Speaking of which, I have something important to inform all of you, Fusu suddenly spoke. After looking around and seeing that there were no outsiders, he cautiously said, not long after, Imperial Father will patrol the Mulberry Sea. I hope that everyone can work together to protect the peace of the Mulberry Sea. Fusu's words stirred up thousands of ripples. Even Xiaomeng, who did not care about anything, turned her head slightly. The first emperor's tour to the east? Xiaomeng muttered softly. She was somewhat surprised. But she quickly regained her calm and turned a deaf ear to it as if nothing had happened. It's just as I guessed. Dustless squinted his eyes and said bluntly, if the remnants of the Mo family in Quicksand find out, and if the farmer party finds out, it'll be a disaster. That's right. So, I hope that everyone will do their best to protect Imperial Father's safety. Fusu will be eternally grateful. Immediately after, under Wu Chen's shocked gaze, Fusu actually cupped his hands towards him, and he looked very sincere. How can this guy? Li Si's eyes burned with jealousy. He saw Fusu's actions and was jealous of him. What was Fusu's status? He was the future successor of the empire. Although Dustless was the head of the school of Yinyang, he was just a Jianghu practitioner. He did not have the status of a noble, nor was he a court official. He was just a powerful commoner. But Fusu's actions just now were something that even Li Si had never received, let alone others. I'll do my best. Dustless nodded. After living in this world for so long, he naturally knew what Fusu's actions meant. To put it simply, it could be summed up in one word, beg. That's right, beg. To beg Dustless for help, one had to admit that Fu Su had indeed lowered himself. This kid is indeed not bad. To be honest, Dustless had a good impression of Fu Su. As the son of Ing Zheng, he would inherit the empire in the future, but he did not put on any airs. It was indeed commendable. However, Fu Su's actions were normal. It was difficult to rely on the Qin's strength to stop the 100 schools of thought. Of course, it was not to say that the Qin was not a match for the 100 schools of thought. As the saying goes, one should not meddle in politics if one is not in position. The Qin army was not good at dealing with Jianghu people like the Mo family. For example, Meng Tian and the Golden Fire Cavalry were used to attack cities. To deal with the Mo family and the farmers, they had to rely on Jianghu practitioners like Dustless. To put it bluntly, it was using Jianghu people to counter Jianghu people. But this is a good opportunity. On the surface he agreed to Fu Su's request. However, Dustless was laughing coldly in his heart. As long as he told the news of Emperor Qin to the Mo family, those rebels would naturally ambush Emperor Qin. Ing Zheng, don't blame me for this. You are too suitable as bait. Dustless's eyes glowed. In the past, he had created a plan of Emperor Qin's eastern tour. However, it was a conspiracy after all. After a series of unexpected developments, it had caused the entire plan to go bankrupt. However, it was different this time. This time it was not a fake but the real Emperor Qin. It would definitely attract the attention of some rebels. With Ing Zheng dead, the world would be in chaos. The remnants of the Mo family, Gunya, and Wei Zhuang would definitely not let go of this rare opportunity. Chapter 1956. The traitors of the Mo clan only had one goal: to overthrow the Qin kingdom. What kind of plan could destroy the Qin kingdom in the shortest time possible? They would use the strategy of capturing the leader first, assassinating Ing Zheng. For example, Jing Ke's assassination of the Qin kingdom was the fastest and most effective method. Therefore, the traitors of the Mo clan would do everything in their power to assassinate the king of Qin, Ing Zheng. This was the main reason why the traitors of the Mo clan were willing to take the risk. In order to destroy the Mo clan and the Nong clan, we have no choice but to turn the act into reality and release the big fish, Ing Zheng. If you die, don't worry, I will support Fu Su. Glancing at Fu Su, Wu Qin made a decision in his heart. What? Are you sure that Ing Zheng is going to tour Mulberry Sea in 3 days? Everyone in the Nong clan stared at Zhang Liang in shock. They did not know where he had gotten this information from. How could such top-secret information be obtained so easily? That's what the information says. Zhang Liang nodded his head confidently. Then, a strange expression appeared on his face. He did not trust the source of this information. Mr. Zhang Liang, what's wrong? Everyone present was good at reading people's expressions. When Gunya saw that Zhang Liang was hesitating, he asked, "Where did this information come from?" "The school of Yinyang." Zhang Liang gave an answer that no one had expected. Hearing this, the members of the Mo clan fell silent. Even Wei Zhuang was not interested. It seemed that everyone had given up on this piece of information. The school of Yinyang, how could they believe it? They had been tricked. Dustless was the incarnation of the devil. He had been playing them for a fool. Actually, I think that the information might be true. Gunya expressed a different opinion. Ignoring the astonishment of the crowd, he explained, the Qin soldiers stationed in Mulberry Sea City have all been replaced with the more elite Golden Fire Cavalry. This means that an important person is coming. Unless there is a special occasion, the Golden Fire Cavalry will not be deployed to guard a city. The Golden Fire Cavalry was used to attack cities. Now they were guarding the city like ordinary soldiers. It was a complete waste of talent, especially when they were fighting against the Hu. Good steel should be used on the blade, and the Golden Fire Cavalry was even more important. However, the situation this time was the opposite. It showed that it was because of Ing Zheng's winter patrol that he deployed the Golden Fire Cavalry so tightly. Forget it, you guys are too long-winded. Hurry up and let me scout for information. Daoji impatiently interrupted the silent atmosphere. A look of regret flashed across his face. The people of the Mo family had all been sacrificed. There was no point in him continuing to live. I'm going too. Big Iron Hammer also said without hesitation. Although his strength was average, his resolute tone made people respect him and look at him in a new light. Interesting. Even Wei Zhuang, who looked down on the two of them, gave them a sidelong glance. I object. Zhang Liang frowned. Their men had already been slaughtered by Dustless. If they went to their deaths, their anti-Qin faction would be completely wiped out. If we don't scout for information, how can we confirm the authenticity of the information? Daoji shrugged nonchalantly and smiled calmly. I'm the best at lightness techniques here. Is there anyone more suitable than me to scout for information and infiltrate the mirage? Hearing this, everyone fell silent. This was indeed the truth. If they did not scout for information, they would not be able to confirm the authenticity of the information Zhang Liang received. Moreover, there were many people who were stronger than Daoji in martial arts, but Daoji excelled in lightness techniques. That's all we can do for now. Zhang Liang reluctantly agreed. It seemed that he had agreed to Daoji's plan. There was no other suitable choice. In the evening, the sky gradually turned cold and the night sky gradually darkened. The void was dotted with bright light. Swish, swish, swish. A black shadow passed through the endless sky. While the mirage was docked, he used his amazing lightness techniques. In an instant, he passed through the layers of eyes and ears and invaded the mirage. What golden fire cavalry! That's all there is to it. Curling his lips in contempt, Daoji went straight to search for Dustless and the others. He invaded the mirage like a ghost. That guy is so bored. It's fine if he's patrolling the east, but he has to make such a big show. It's as if he's afraid no one knows he's here. In a pavilion, looking at the night view of Shanghai from afar, even though it was already dark, there were still many golden fire cavalry patrolling. The security of the entire city had reached an unprecedented level. That's right. With such a big show, everyone knows that a big figure is coming. Yueshin quickly nodded. Then she frowned and said, Young Master Fu Su also did not say when Ying Zheng would come to Shanghai. How can we cooperate? Because it's a secret, Fu Su only told me. The time is in 3 days. Dustless smiled and explained, Ying Zheng came to Shanghai not only to worship heaven, but also to come to the mirage. To the mirage? What does Ying Zheng want? Hearing that, Yueshin hesitated for a moment and then asked, Is he coming for our school of Yin Yang? That's true. But to be exact, he should be coming for Yun Zhongjuan. Dustless smiled mysteriously with a smile of success on his face. Why did Ying Zheng suddenly visit the east? Generally speaking, he could visit the east at any time but not now. After all, the front line was at war with the barbarians in the north. Every day there was a large number of battle reports that needed to be checked and approved by Ying Zheng. The reason he came all the way to Shanghai was that Dustless deliberately spread false news, saying that Yun Zhongjuan's elixir of immortality had been successfully concocted. That was why Ying Zheng rushed to Shanghai in a hurry. Chapter 1957. He looks like it's not a big deal. Dustless isn't as evil as the rumors say. He still hasn't discovered my existence. On the roof, Daoji gently lifted the tile. Yueshin, who was listening to the conversation between Dustless and Yueshin, listened attentively. Yueshin, remember this. Ying Zheng will be here in 3 days. When that time comes, you must be alert. Do not embarrass our school of Yin Yang. Dustless ordered with a serious face. I understand, Sect Master. Yueshin used a very confident tone and said, The entire Mulberry Sea City is watertight. No one can hide from our eyes. No one can hide from your eyes? Are you the school of Yin Yang's eyes? Daoji, who was lying on the roof, showed a contemptuous expression. He curled his lips and said, You are just a school of Yin Yang. Do you really think you are invincible? Pathetic and laughable. At the same time, Daoji heard the important news he wanted to hear. After taking a deep look at Dustless, Daoji quietly retreated. Swish, swish, swish. Daoji merged with the dark void and left quietly like a black wind. The soldiers stationed around did not notice Daoji's existence at all. They instinctively thought it was just a black wind at night. Zizi, did that prisoner's fly finally leave? After Daoji left, Dustless immediately put on a tired expression. Seriously, acting is so tiring. It must have been hard on those movie actors in my previous life. If one wanted to be completely at ease, one had to use 120% of their acting skills to deceive the audience. Yes, that guy left. It seems like he went to inform the school of Mo. Yueshin looked up at the roof. Because the tiles were lifted, she could see the deep starry sky outside through the weak cracks. Did you find out? Is there a backup? Dustless gulped down a mouthful of herbal tea, then said coldly, We still need Daoji to tell the news of Ying Zheng to the people of Mo clan, so that they will be fooled. He can live for now. As for that disciple of Mo clan who was protecting Daoji, make him disappear from the face of the earth. The reason Robber Ji was still alive and Dustless had spent so much effort to put on an act was because Robber Ji had value. Dustless had used his mouth to spread false information and lead the rebels to their deaths. That person is one of the commanders of the Mahist clan, Big Iron Hammer? Moon Goddess said a name that Dustless was familiar with. Dustless's eyes immediately lit up with joy. That brat Big Hammer? Then let me deal with him and extract his memories to see where these traitors have hidden wrong. It would be best if we could find the base of the peasant family and wipe them all out. Dustless's eyes shone with a murderous light, and the killing intent in his body made people flee at the mere sight of him. Only Big Hammer, Daoji and Tianming were left in the Mahist clan. The rest of them had either been subdued by Dustless or killed by him. Isn't Daoji's lightness skill unparalleled? Why is he so slow? I'm dying of anxiety. Outside the city, Big Hammer was talking to himself anxiously. After a few hours he still hadn't found Daoji's shadow. The bad-tempered and impatient Big Hammer was cursing. I say, a ghostly voice came out of nowhere as if it had jumped out from a crack in the void. Big Hammer was so scared that he almost jumped up. He hurriedly took a dozen steps back. Ah, is the commander of the Mahist clan so weak? Your performance is so disappointing. A black shadow slowly walked out of the darkness. Under the dim moonlight, Big Hammer looked straight at it and saw a face that he hated the most. It's you? After seeing who it was, Big Hammer's eyes shone with hatred. Oh, you still recognize me. What an honor. He smiled politely and introduced himself, but let me introduce you first. The person who is going to take your head is me, the master of the Yin-Yang clan, Dustless. You bastard, you killed so many of my brothers. I'm going to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. There was no need for others to set them off. Big Hammer, who was filled with hatred for Dustless, went berserk. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Big Hammer nimbly took off the bronze hammer on his neck and spun like a tornado. The hammer that was tied to the chain in his hand also spun crazily. Thor's hammer. The wind and waves became stronger and stronger, destroying all obstacles in the surroundings. The trees that were thicker than a person could not withstand a single blow from the Thor's hammer, and collapsed. Really, no matter what, we are old acquaintances. I'm looking forward to this meeting. Is this all you're showing me? Seeing Big Hammer dancing to his heart's content, Dustless instantly lost interest. This guy's level was too low. There was nothing special about him that was worth looking at. Go to hell. Big Hammer roared, and the crazily spinning hammer suddenly smashed towards him. Dustless was not afraid of the fatal attack. He just coldly raised his right hand. Bang, bang, bang. The iron hammer, which was enough to crush a big tree, swept from the right side, setting off bursts of violent thunder. The rough surface of the hammer was even covered with bright thunder and lightning. It looked like it was going to smash Wu Chen's head. Break for me. At the moment when the hammer was about to hit his head, Dustless suddenly made an astonishing move. He directly punched out with his seemingly weak fist. Crack, crack, crack. The hammer made of bronze broke into pieces in an instant and turned into boiling iron. It was directly smashed by Dustless's fist and turned into bronze fragments on the ground. Chapter 1958. This guy broke my hammer? Seeing the bronze fragments all over the ground, Big Hammer's pupils froze. He stared at the smiling Dustless in shock, as if he was looking at a living monster. A mere human being could break a bronze hammer that weighed hundreds of pounds. Was he still human? A real monster. What's there to be surprised about, Big Hammer? Dustless walked towards Big Hammer lazily, and the latter retreated in fear. Humans could be defeated, but monsters could eat humans if they were angry. Big Hammer knew that he was no match for Dustless. At this moment, his fighting spirit was completely crushed by Dustless. You stay away from me. Looking at Dustless's smiling face, Big Hammer sighed inwardly. He was born at the wrong time and the heavens were unfair. Since the heavens created such a terrifying monster like Dustless, why did the heavens create them, these mediocre and incompetent mortals? They were completely ridiculed and bullied by Dustless. Did I hear wrongly? You just said that you wanted to avenge the disciples of the Mo family, and now you don't want to? If you keep a distance from me, it will be even more difficult for you to take revenge. You will never be able to do it. Dustless tried to keep a calm face as he stared at Big Hammer. Seeing that he was about to break down, he deliberately said, I forgot to tell you something. Your Mo family's great son Yen Dan and Gao Jinli were actually killed by me. What? Hearing this, Big Hammer looked as if he had been electrocuted. He was stunned and his footsteps stopped instantly. Don't think it's unbelievable. I killed Yen Dan purely because I didn't like that guy. As for Gao Jianli, I can only say that he was unlucky and saw something that he shouldn't have. Therefore, I could only send him to the underworld to meet Yen Dan. Dustless slowly explained the reason. His lips trembled as he continued to provoke Big Hammer. Suddenly, the ground shook with a rumbling sound. "I'll kill you, you bastard." Big Iron Hammer's eyes were red, and he recklessly jumped towards Dustless. Because of his body's weight and strength, the whole ground shook with Big Iron Hammer's footsteps, which was quite frightening. "You want to die so quickly?" Seeing this, Dustless did not hold back. He raised his right arm and a golden light appeared at the tip of his thumb. It rapidly compressed and penetrated with a sharpness that could penetrate all things. Since Big Iron Hammer wanted to die, Dustless naturally wouldn't be polite. "Your final struggle makes me feel bored, but it's also a way to pass the time, so I'll let you die a little faster." Lasers. The beam of light flew straight towards Big Hammer's head. It was so fast that it pierced through Big Hammer's body in the blink of an eye. Pucci. A charred and bloody hole appeared on Big Iron Hammer's head. It had been completely penetrated. Through his head, one could see the other side of the world. Even at the moment of his death, Big Hammer's eyes were still wide open, filled with a myriad of unwillingness. "Let me take a look at your memories. Where exactly did the farmer's clan hide Rong, and where exactly is their base of operations?" Dustless's right arm grabbed Big Hammer's head. His eyes had turned purple, and he began to use his eye power to extract the memories in the depths of Big Hammer's mind. Whether it was the farmer's family, the Mo family, or other remnants of evil, they were all targets that Dustless wanted to destroy. In short, those who stood on the opposite side of me had no reason to live. This was very domineering and barbaric, but the nature of every world was like this. The winner was king and the one with the bigger fist had the final say. Buzz buzz buzz. In a short while, all the information Dustless wanted appeared in his mind. So that's how it is. Zhang Liang is really smart. The most dangerous place is the safest place? This arrangement really caught me off guard. They actually secretly locked Rong in the sage small manor. How cunning and insidious. Dustless did not find much about the farmer's family's territory. He only had a vague memory of it. As for the place where Duanmu Rong was locked up, Dustless found it very strange. It was the sage small manor of the Confucians, who would place an important hostage right under the enemy's nose. But Zhang Liang did the exact opposite, and he even hid it from Dustless's eyes. "Zhang Liang, you stinking brat. The next time we meet you will definitely die." With a cold snort, Dustless ignored the existence of gravity and disappeared into the dark night sky like a shadow. He went straight to the place where Duanmu Rong was locked up, the sage small manor. As for Big Hammer's corpse, that was not something Dustless could care about. He couldn't bring the corpse with him, could he? Moreover, even if Big Iron Hammer's corpse was destroyed by the cold wind, even if it was thrown under the sun, it had nothing to do with Wu Qian. In the end he was still an enemy, nothing more. While Dustless was rushing to the sage small manor, Daoji was also rushing back to the farmer's family. He had not found any trace of Big Hammer and thought that he had come back alone. Who would have thought that he did not even see Big Hammer? Regarding this, Daoji was also deeply uneasy. After all, it had been very dangerous these past few days. Shanghai had gathered a large number of forces. Zhao Gao's net and the Qin State's Golden Fire Cavalry were all patrolling to prevent any mistakes. Even though Daoji wanted to go out and look for Big Hammer, his rationality told him that he had to stay. He told Gunia, Wei Zhuang, and the others everything he had heard from Dustless. Of course, the farmers' hall masters were also present. Although they did not get along well, they all had the same goal, to deal with Ying Zhang's Qin kingdom. Chapter 1959. Although Tian Hu of the School of Agriculture did not have a good relationship with the Mo family, they both had the same enemy, the Qin kingdom. That was why they were able to sit together and listen to Daoji's report. It was fine if they did not get along, but their positions and interests were the same. The news of Ying Zhang's eastern tour 3 days later is undoubtedly true. It was said by Wu Qian and Yueshin themselves. I heard it clearly at that time. Daoji had a look of certainty on his face as he spoke energetically. Phew! Hearing this, Gunia, Wei Zhuang, Xiaoyu and the others all took a deep breath. Even Wei Zhuang, who usually spoke little and liked to be quiet, had eyes that were filled with a dazzling luster at this moment. It was not just the others. Even Wei Zhuang himself was tempted. In the past, Jing Ku failed to assassinate Ying Zhang because he was in the Qin kingdom's palace, which was heavily guarded. Now that Ying Zhang was out, it would be much easier to assassinate him. If Ying Zhang dies, everything will be over. Even if his empire does not collapse immediately, the impact of Ing Zheng's death will cause a huge commotion. There will be chaos within the empire. Wei Zhuang was very clear. Ing Zheng was the founder of the Qin kingdom. If he died, some people who were not willing to accept Fu Su as the successor would take advantage of the situation. That's right. Gunia nodded in agreement. It was rare for the two of them to share the same opinion. When I was still in Xianying, Ing Zheng's other sons, Hu Hai was the smartest and most favored by Ing Zheng. If Fu Su were to fall from power, Hu Hai would undoubtedly be the next successor. Furthermore, Hu Hai also had supporters such as Zhao Gao. It's not just Zhao Gao now. Tianyan, the farmer's first female think tank, suddenly said, Zhao Gao and Li Si are very close. If I'm not wrong, the two of them might be in cahoots. That Zhao Gao and Li Si are not good people. Tian Hu, who was wearing a blindfold, snorted coldly. He looked past everyone and said coldly, although our common enemy is the Qin kingdom, I have to emphasize that the title of hero of the School of Agriculture is mine. Dustless's head is also mine. Upon hearing his words, the rest of them frowned, and a displeased look flashed in their eyes. Their current mission was to eliminate Ing Zheng and everything else was negotiable. But for the sake of a Dustless, if they were to forget about Ing Zheng's head, wouldn't that be a big loss for a small gain? However, Tian Hu's words didn't stop them. 4 of the 6 halls of the School of Agriculture had already defected to Tian Hu, so no one dared to refute him. Stupid. Tian Mi, who had an enchanting figure, remained calm on the surface, but she was sneering in her heart. Often, the more self-righteous and omnipotent a person is, the faster he dies. And, after Tian Mi exhaled lightly, the corner of her eyes locked onto the people present. The determination in her heart suddenly wavered. These people don't see eye to eye. It's impossible to defeat the state of Qin. Even the Yin Yang family can't deal with them. Following them is equivalent to seeking death. As everyone knew, Tian Mi was a fence-sitter. She would side with whichever side the wind was stronger. Suddenly, she felt that if she were to stay in the same boat with these people, she would inevitably end up being wiped out. Tian Mi wanted to develop her Kuei Hall, not lead it to the end. At this moment, she couldn't help but have other thoughts. She felt that it was necessary to find another way to survive. A fine bird chooses a fine tree to nest in. If she knew that it was a dead end, she must be crazy to jump in without hesitation. About 10 to 10 hours later, in another direction. Sect Master. When Dustless was about to have sex with young Master Ming and Great Master Ming, Yueshin's cold voice suddenly came from outside the room. What bad luck. Dustless climbed out of the bed with a gloomy face. Young Master Ming and Great Master Ming pursed their lips and snickered. Everyone was very familiar with each other now, and they could even open their hearts to each other. You two just wait. I'll deal with you later. Dustless glanced at the smooth naked body and put on his clothes unhappily. In the brightly lit hall. What's the matter, Yueshin? You better give me a reasonable explanation. Yueshin stared at Dustless's gloomy face and wondered, why is this guy so temperamental? What did I do to offend him? Yueshin, who couldn't figure it out, didn't dwell on it anymore. She then said slowly, Tianmi, one of the 6 halls of the Farmer's Hall is here. She wishes to meet you now. What do you think? Farmer's Tianmi? Wu Chen's brows knit together when he heard this, and a beautiful woman with a mature and enchanting bearing and an appearance that could be considered to be beautiful instantly appeared in his mind. Her eyes that could release electricity carried a charm that seduced one's soul, and the slightest carelessness would cause one to fall deeply into it. Rubbing his chin, Dustless analyzed to himself, I know a little about that Tianmi. She's a mature woman who can't decide what to do. I guess she came to me to join forces with the Yin Yang school. Interesting. I didn't expect there to be a mole in the Farmer's Hall. Very good. Dustless, who was originally very unhappy, suddenly became interested. He looked at the moon deity and said, bring her over to see me. This time, Tianmi actually dared to rashly barge into the Yin Yang school. She can forget about leaving in one piece. Dustless was implying that he wanted to pull Tianmi into his pirate ship. A mole with amazing intelligence could cause more damage than the enemy. Chapter 1960. There's no harm in meeting Tianmi. Anyway, Wuchen wouldn't lose anything if he met Tianmi, and he also wanted to see what tricks this woman had up her sleeves. In addition, this meeting would have an extraordinary impact on Tianmi, and there would be no room for her to retreat in the future. Once this matter was exposed, it would definitely be a fatal blow to Tianmi's reputation. It would arouse the hostility of the other halls of the farmer party, and they might even gang up on her. Therefore, no matter what, Tianmi had no way out. She could only go down the dark path with Dustless. Moon Goddess, go and call that woman over. I want to see where she gets the courage to come alone. About 10 minutes later, there was a sudden sound of slow footsteps in the brightly lit hall. Tap, tap, tap. As the footsteps got closer, Dustless, who was sitting on the main seat, slowly opened his eyes. His deep pupils stared at the beautiful figure behind Moon Goddess. His gaze was fixed on her body and didn't move. Leader, you're staring at me like that. I'm a little embarrassed. Tianmi found that she was being stared at by Dustless. She blew out a smoke ring in a relaxed manner. She didn't realize that she was in the tiger's den. She spoke naturally. Tianmi, I don't like to talk nonsense. Tell me your intention. Staring at this mature woman, Dustless felt that she wasn't simple. This indifferent and casual behavior was definitely not a pretense or forced calmness. The eyes were the window to the soul. Dustless didn't find any panic in Tianmi's eyes. He even caught a trace of ambition to control. This is interesting. This woman's ambition is not small. She wants to control me and play me in the palm of her hand? Dustless's sleepiness disappeared. He said with a burning gaze, Tianmi, you should know the consequences of meeting me, right? Of course I know. After today, I'm afraid I'll be seen as a traitor of the farmer party. I'll be despised. Tianmi sat down elegantly, completely ignoring Moon Goddess's existence. She said to herself, however, in my opinion, knowing that there are tigers in the mountain, but going to the tiger's mountain is tantamount to suicide. Therefore, Tianmi has come to meet with Jiaozhu to seek a way out for the brothers of Kue Hall. So you want to join the school of Yinyang? Dustless knocked on the armrest with his eyes closed. He wasn't interested in this at all. Sorry, the school of Yinyang doesn't like small fries. You, hearing this, Tianmi's beautiful eyes flashed with anger, and the genuine qi in her body had already spread slightly. Hallmaster Tian, I hope you understand that this is the school of Yin Yang's mirage. The Moon Goddess glanced at Tianmi indifferently. Her words were filled with threat. Tianmi snorted and withdrew her genuine qi. She said straightforwardly, I'm here to cooperate with the Yin Yang school, not to join your school. Cooperation? Ah. Dustless opened his eyes and stared at Tianmi in surprise. Soon after, he could not help but chuckle. You think it's funny? Tianmi's face darkened slightly. Even though Dustless didn't directly mock her, she knew that he was mocking her ignorance. Don't you think it's ridiculous? You actually want to cooperate with me? Have you figured out your identity? Tianmi, you're just the hall master of Kue Hall, not the hero of the school of Yinyang. How can you represent the school of Yinyang to cooperate with me? You don't deserve it. Dustless couldn't help but laugh. At first, he thought that this woman was quite scheming. However, after a simple conversation, he suddenly lost this feeling. What was cooperation? It was very simple and direct. Both parties could cooperate if they had common interests. Tianmi joined Dustless's camp. Although she could have foresight in terms of intelligence, it was also like inviting a wolf into the house for Dustless. There was nothing special about it. Phew! Hearing Dustless's mockery, Tianmi calmly blew out a smoke ring. Suddenly, she changed the topic and said, I heard that Jiaozhu and Duanmu Rong of the Mo family have a good relationship. They can be called bosom friends. I wonder how she is recently? This has nothing to do with you. I will find her sooner or later. Frowning, Dustless answered abruptly. He had already gone to the Shaoxing Manor. However, to his disappointment, Duanmu Rong had been taken away, leaving only a few corpses. Ah, it seems that Jiaozhu really cares about Miss Duanmu. Tianmi's eyes lit up. She chuckled and said, if Miss Duanmu is in my hands, will you still refuse to cooperate? Tianmi, are you threatening me? Dustless narrowed his eyes and looked at her expressionlessly. The flow of air suddenly stopped and suffocating pressure filled the air. The atmosphere instantly reached an explosive peak. It seemed that a fight would break out if there was a disagreement. This is not a threat. It's just a bargaining chip for cooperation. Tianmi tried to remain calm. Being stared at by Dustless's indifferent eyes, she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. What will happen if I refuse? Will you order your men to kill Ronger? Dustless asked calmly. He did not take any rash actions. He just stared at Tianmi with colder and colder eyes. The pressure on Tianmi also doubled. Of course not. Moreover, I also believe that the sect master is a woman who has tender feelings for the fairer sex. You won't kill me. Tianmi put on a charming smile, and her charming laughter was extremely seductive. This woman has the ability to tease men. Moon Goddess looked at Tianmi gently. She even suspected that if it were not for her existence, this woman would immediately take some actions to seduce Dustless to agree to her conditions. Having tender feelings for the fairer sex doesn't mean that I won't kill women. Moreover, countless beautiful women have died in my hands. Dustless retorted in an unfriendly tone. After pondering for a while, he said, "Cooperation is fine. At least bring Rong to see me. Otherwise there is nothing to talk about." "Of course. Jiaozhu, please wait for a moment. Tianmi will leave." Chapter 1961. Fate is really cruel and full of twists and turns. Staring at Tianmi's disappearing back, Dustless said with emotion, "Why does Hierarch have such feelings? Sympathy for the weak?" Yueshin was surprised and she was curious about Dustless's idea. She always felt very strange. Dustless's apparent age was only 17 or 18 years old, but sometimes he gave people the illusion that he had lived for hundreds of years. Sympathy for the weak? That's right. I just think that this woman is a bit ridiculous. She wants to play with me. If she knows my true origin, she will understand the meaning of my words. Dustless finally closed his eyes. Anyway, he came from another world and he was familiar with the development of the future. If he was controlled by Tianmi, wouldn't it be too ridiculous? What's more, even if she threatened Dustless with Duanmu Rong's safety, it was useless. The outer path reincarnation technique of Rinnegan was not a joke. About half an hour later, Tianmi came. This time she was not alone. She came with a beautiful figure that Dustless had been thinking about day and night, Duanmu Rong. "Sorry I have caused you so much trouble." Duanmu Rong stood in front of Dustless with shame, and her watery eyes were dim. "Don't worry about it. Isn't everything okay now? Above the mirage is my territory." Dustless smiled and patted Duanmu Rong's shoulder, indicating that she didn't need to think too much. A person's long life was always a little bumpy, and she just needed to get over it. "Yueshin." Dustless suddenly looked at Yueshin, and he motioned her to take Duanmu Rong to rest. "Miss Duanmu, this way please." Yueshin understood Dustless's meaning, and then took Duanmu Rong to the wing room. In the large hall, only two people were left. Dustless and Tianmi. Hierarch is really affectionate. Sister Duanmu is really lucky. Tianmi chuckled, and her every move was full of charm. Although Tianmi was somewhat beautiful, Dustless didn't know why he couldn't look at her. Instead, he felt that being in the same space with her made his breathing a little stuffy. "I will inform Fu Su of your request." After looking at Tianmi for a while, Dustless continued, "However, you have to give me Zhang Liang's head. Otherwise I still can't trust you." "Zhang Liang?" Hearing this, Tianmi frowned. In terms of strength, Zhang Liang might not be as good as Wei Zhuang or Gunia, but he was extremely intelligent. "Sect Master, with all due respect, Zhang Liang This is a necessary condition. You can reject it, but the cooperation will be voided." Without giving Tianmi a chance to talk nonsense, Dustless said coldly, "Tianmi, someone should have told you that there's no free lunch in the world. You're still too inexperienced if you want to get something from me without sewing." Hearing this, Tianmi's expression froze. After taking a deep look at Dustless, she gritted her teeth and said, "In that case, Tianmi will accept your mission. I hope that your sect will keep its promise. After Zhang Liang's head is brought here, I will naturally tell Fu Su that it's your contribution. After the destruction of the School of Agriculture, the new hero chief will also be called Tianmi," Dustless replied calmly. In reality, he wasn't at a disadvantage. Although he agreed to help Tianmi become the new hero chief of the School of Agriculture, he didn't know if she could control others. "Farewell." Joy appeared on Tianmi's face as she walked away gracefully. Her long, snow-white legs could be seen from time to time. "Right, Tianmi still has something I don't understand." Suddenly recalling something, Tianmi turned her head to look at Wu Chen. "Speak." This time, Dustless didn't beat around the bush. If it wasn't something sensitive, there was no harm in telling Tianmi. "Is it true that Ying Zheng will come to Shanghai 3 days later?" Although Daoji described that he heard it from Dustless, Tianmi found that Dustless wasn't the kind of person who liked to talk nonsense, especially about such secrets. Hearing this, Dustless's mouth suddenly curved into a strange arc. He replied, "Of course it's true. You have also discovered the Golden Fire Cavalry in Shanghai City. This is just to pave the way for Ying Zheng's arrival." "Of course, I deliberately leaked the news that Ying Zheng is coming to Shanghai." Dustless laughed in his heart. It was true that Ing Zheng was coming to Shanghai to worship heaven and watch the mirage. The only difference was that Dustless deliberately leaked the news of Ing Zheng's arrival. In this way the rebels would inevitably be attracted, and Dustless could take the opportunity to wipe them out. Time flew and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In these 3 days the security in Mulberry Sea City became more and more tense. Especially on the last day, almost every household had 2 soldiers of the Qin state in charge of guarding. Both sides of the street were almost full of soldiers of the Qin army. Even children now understood that a big shot was coming to Shanghai. When Li Si and Fu Su came to Shanghai, they didn't have such a big lineup. In fact, it was obvious who was coming to Shanghai this time. Ing Zheng, the king of Qin. Where did those people from the Mo family go? Dustless didn't join the team to protect the king of Qin. He only sent Yueshan and concubine Yan. As for Great Si Ming and Young Si Ming, they followed him quietly. Most likely they are hiding in an inn like us. Dustless, Great Si Ming and Young Si Ming were hiding in Pao Ding's vacant inn. Because it had 2 floors, they could overlook the changes in the surroundings. If they want to take action, they should do it now. Otherwise they won't have a chance. I heard that Ing Zheng is going to live in Sea Moon Villa. It's heavily guarded and the people of Mo family can't get close at all. It's most likely that they are on the street. Young Si Ming added. After following Dustless, she became more talkative. Chapter 1962. What you two said makes sense. If we miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. There's only one chance. They should have planned the details of this in detail before. Dustless nodded in agreement. With Zhang Liang's personality, he definitely knew where the problem was. Therefore he would not let go of this opportunity. Yueshan, how's the progress of the elixir of immortality made by the school of Yinyang? A powerful male voice came from the unique square palanquin. However, it was a stretch to call it a palanquin. At least it was in Dustless's eyes. At best it was a square frame that was then covered by a veil. Those with excellent eyesight could still see the blurry figure inside. Your Majesty? Hearing that, Yueshan hesitated. She actually did not know the specific progress of the elixir of immortality. That fellow Wu Qin is really something. This is going to be terrible. Yueshan rolled her eyes and thought hard about countermeasures. Deceiving the emperor was not a small crime. Beheading would be considered a light punishment. Even the Qin kingdom's laws were strict. If it was serious, they would use the torture of collective punishment. The school of Yinyang would be in trouble. It should be completed in a few days. Yueshan had no choice but to follow Dustless's dark path. Very good. Even through the veil, one could see the ecstasy on Ing Zheng's face. For so many years, he had been thinking about immortality every day, to the point that he almost went crazy. Now that his dream was about to come true, he was naturally excited. You want to live forever with the body of a mortal? Birth, old age, illness, and death are the processes that all things in the world must go through. No one in this world can escape from this iron law. Hearing Ing Zheng's happy tone, Yueshan snorted. She did not care about immortality. Since the school of Yinyang had a new master, Dustless. Although his astrology was not as good as the original Dong Huang Tai, his knowledge was definitely much better than Dong Huang Tai. After all, Dustless had experienced countless worlds and seen all kinds of strange things. He was not something that Dong Huang Tai could compare with. If there's really an existence in this world that can't be decayed by time, it's probably only that guy. The image of Dustless's back appeared in Moon God's mind. Combined with his unbelievable power, Moon God thought it was possible. She felt that Dustless's background was mysterious. Moon God often wondered where Dustless came from, but she couldn't figure it out no matter how hard she tried. Ka. Right at this moment, an unexpected change suddenly took place. Countless dark shadows suddenly sprung out from the inns on both sides of Ing Zheng's path, each holding a large blade that shone with a cold gleam. This sudden scene stunned everyone. These people, seeing this, Dustless, who was secretly observing them, was about to make a move. However, after seeing their clumsy posture, he immediately stopped. These people did not seem to be assassins from the Mo family. Taking a closer look, almost all of them were wearing black masks. I remember that this group of rebels are all wanted criminals. Why do they have to wear masks? Is it really that powerful to wear masks? Dustless muttered to himself. Gunia and the others were wanted criminals. Even if they wore masks, would it be of any use? Could they be from the farmer's clan? Dustless thought to himself. To be honest, from the way these assassins moved, They didn't seem to be top-notch swordsmen like Gunia and Wei Zhuang. In terms of ability they were far inferior. You're courting death. Seeing the assassins in black rushing over, Concubine Yen and Moon God immediately launched an attack, wrestling with the assassins. Their mission was to ensure Ying Zheng's safety. However, in a way Ying Zheng didn't need anyone to protect him. He had Heaven's Inquisition, which was ranked first in the sword manual. How could such a person be ordinary? Moreover, it was common knowledge that since ancient times, the people of the Qin kingdom had always revered martial arts. As the emperor, Ying Zheng was definitely not an ordinary person. It was just that he rarely showed himself, so there was no chance for him to make a move. Avenge Lord Changping. Ying Zheng is in that group. Don't let him go. Avenge Lord Changping. The black-clothed assassins scrambled to be the first to charge at Qin Shi Huang while roaring loudly. Lord Changping. This unsightly name was like a blade that pierced right into Ying Zheng's heart. In an instant, a cold air began to gather on his face, brimming with an ominous air of hostility. His temperament changed drastically, and he even drew his sword out of its sheath. No wonder I found it strange. So these people aren't the rebels from the Mo clan? Hearing the name Lord Changping, Dustless was enlightened. A faint smile appeared on his lips. Zhao Gao, that bastard, he can't help but want to make a move on Fu Su? Why was Ying Zheng avoiding Lord Changping so much and even hated him so much? Lord Changping was once one of Qin Shi Huang's meritorious officials. He was the right prime minister and he was related to the eldest son of the Qin kingdom, Fu Su. However, he later went to the Chu kingdom and rebelled against the Qin kingdom. Other than that, Fu Su and Lord Changping had a very special relationship. This was perhaps what Ying Zheng hated the most. In history, Lord Changping was Fu Su's uncle. How ambitious. You want to use this opportunity to frame Fu Su? Zhao Gao and Li Si are really cunning. They have really put in a lot of effort to help Hu Hai ascend the throne. Dustless was too lazy to interfere. These small fries could be left to Yueshin and Concubine Yen. There was no need for him to get involved. He just needed to watch silently. Moreover, no matter what, Fu Su was definitely going to be the scapegoat. The matter of Lord Changping had always been a sore point in Ying Zheng's heart. Now that he was used by Zhao Gao and Li Si, no matter if Fu Su was the one behind the assassination, he would still be punished. Chapter 1963. What a bummer. The people of the Mo family that he expected didn't appear. Wu Chen's heart suddenly waned. He was a little disheartened. He sat down on the stool with deep disdain on his face. Looks like Zhang Liang is just short-sighted. Although it was dangerous to carry out the assassination now, it would be even more dangerous when Ying Zheng returned to Haiyu Courtyard. After all, it was the territory of Qin army, and Ying Zheng was at a very close distance now, so close that he could even see his vague shadow. Zhao Gao, your subordinates are all good-for-nothings. Not only Dustless, Great Si Ming and Young Si Ming, but also Li Si and Zhao Gao, who were standing next to Ying Zheng, were whispering. Li Si's eyes were burning with anger. Bastard. Seeing Li Si looking at him angrily, Zhao Gao wanted to kill himself. This guy would get angry at him whenever he was unhappy, and he was often scolded. Damn you, Li Si, I will tear you into pieces and wipe out all your family members. Zhao Gao roared in his heart, but on the surface he just swallowed his broken teeth and put on an expression that said, "It's all my fault." You found this kind of person to assassinate His Majesty? Do you have a death wish? Li Si stared at Zhao Gao and scolded, even without the guards, these people can't hurt His Majesty. Well, you are right, Minister. Zhao Gao could not deny it. Although Ying Zheng did not do it personally, it did not mean that he was weak. On the contrary, this unfathomable emperor was rumored to be very evil. When Jing Ku had tried to assassinate the Qin emperor, Jing Ku had mysteriously died. Even though the outside world had said that Jing Ku had been killed by Gunya, how many people knew the truth? Everything was a mystery. Qin Shi Huang's life was shrouded in countless secrets, and all kinds of rumors were spread. Then what are you trying to do? Aren't you digging your own grave by finding such a powerful assassin? And judging from the situation, if we are captured alive, we will be exposed as the real culprits. Although I want to help Hu Hai ascend the throne, I don't want him to be exterminated by His Majesty as a traitor before he can even become the emperor. Hearing this, Li Si became even angrier. In his eyes, Zhao Gao's actions were akin to asking for trouble. Lord Prime Minister, don't worry. Even if we are captured alive, the blame will not fall on us. These assassins are just bait. Their true identities are farmers. Zhao Gao explained proudly, If His Majesty knew that these people were farmers, based on His Majesty's personality, what do you think he would do? Hearing this, Li Si frowned and said resolutely, if that's the case with His Majesty's personality, he definitely won't let those traitors off so easily. He will definitely make them pay with blood. What a brilliant move. He looked at Zhao Gao, who was laughing sinisterly in surprise. He wanted to borrow Ying Zheng's hand to destroy the farmer clan. Not only that, he also took the opportunity to plot against young master Fu Su. After all, those assassins were shouting Lord Changping's name, and Fu Su's uncle was Lord Changping. How could Fu Su stay out of this? According to the laws of the Qin kingdom, it was impossible. This was a good strategy to kill two birds with one stone. Boom boom boom. At this moment, a huge tremor suddenly attracted everyone's attention. Ka ka ka. A quiet and was suddenly crushed. Following this, several black figures dashed out from within. All of them were holding long swords, and their faces were filled with hostility. That is, a wisp of imperceptible cold light flashed past Wu Chen's face when he saw the man in a black robe. Quixen Wei Zhuang? You're finally willing to come out and die. The words you made me wait for have withered. Dustless stared at these people with glowing eyes. He realized that Wei Zhuang was not the only one. The other anti-Qin alliance had also suddenly appeared. Tianmi, that woman? Staring at the people beside Wei Zhuang, Dustless frowned. He did not receive any information from Tianmi that the farmer clan would also participate in this operation. Oh, everyone is mobilized. This formation is really shocking. Not only Wei Zhuang but even the experts of the farmer clan are here. Are they planning to make a final fight? Looking carefully, it was not only Wei Zhuang who had come. Even top experts like Gunia and Zayayozi were here. Not only that, the experts of the farmer clan had also participated in this encirclement. Yueshin and concubine Yan's side suddenly fell into a disadvantageous position. It's time for us to make a move. Otherwise, concubine Yan and Yueshin will not be able to withstand it. Great Si Ming and young Si Ming looked at each other. Just as they were about to leave, a cold voice stopped them from leaving. I suddenly changed my mind. Don't meddle in other people's business. It's best to let Ying Zheng die here. Dustless's words were shocking. At this critical moment, he decisively chose to stand aside and watch. He suddenly felt that it was better for Ying Zheng to die. First of all, Ying Zheng was here for the elixir of immortality. If he had really succeeded in refining it, it would have been fine. The key was that Dustless had tricked Ying Zheng into coming to Shanghai. This was the crime of deceiving the emperor. According to the law, he should be executed. Secondly, Zhao Gao and Li Si had already framed Meng Tian. In the future, Meng Tian would definitely be sent to the northern border to fight with Meng Tian. Once he left, he would never return. Until he was killed by Zhao Gao and Li Si, he would never step into Xianying again. That's not bad. If Fu Su ascends, it will indeed be more beneficial for our school of Yin Yang. Great Si Ming and young Si Ming nodded in agreement. Dustless and Dustless had a good personal relationship. Judging from Dustless' personality, he was a person who knew how to repay kindness. Dustless had saved him time and time again, so he would definitely not mistreat the school of Yin Yang. Chapter 1964. As for the current king of Qin, Ying Zheng, he could only say sorry. People who walk different paths cannot make plans together. Although Ying Zheng is a good emperor, he and Wu Chen are not on the same path. Sooner or later they will part ways. Ying Zheng had always seen the 100 schools of thought as a huge threat and wanted to get rid of them. But it was worth mentioning that the school of Yin Yang was also one of the 100 schools of thought, and it was the strongest. On top of that, compared to Fu Su, Ying Zheng was a tough man. Previously, Wu Chen had used the elixir of immortality to lure Ying Zheng to Mulberry Sea. If he was still alive and knew that the elixir of immortality had not been completed, there was a high chance that Ying Zheng would be enraged and wipe out the school of Yin Yang. Since that was the case, Dustless could only act in advance. Damn you, Zhao Gao. What are you doing? On the streets that were dyed red with blood, a large number of disciples of the school of thought and Qin soldiers were fighting. It was an unprecedented chaotic battle, and the pungent smell of blood permeated the air. This has nothing to do with me. Zhao Gao had a bitter expression. He did not know where so many school of thought rebels came from. Looking around, there were at least 1,000 people fighting. I remember you said that you had pointed the spearhead of the school of thought at Dustless. How can you still have the time to deal with His Majesty? This is a dereliction of duty. Li Si scolded decisively, pushing all the blame to Zhao Gao. The so-called follower and ally from a certain perspective was taking the blame for himself. This bastard. Hearing this, Zhao Gao wanted to cry but no tears came out. He was even more dissatisfied with Li Si, but he could only accept it. After all, Li Si was the prime minister while he was just a first-rank official. The difference in status was too great. It could even be said that if Li Si killed Zhao Gao, Ying Zheng would only frown. As for Zhao Gao who killed Li Si, he would definitely be killed. That was the difference. Quickly go support His Majesty. Seeing that Zhao Gao was still standing there in a daze, the furious Li Si kicked his butt and scolded, "Idiot, if His Majesty dies, Fu Su will immediately ascend to the throne. At that time, it will be difficult for the two of us to move forward. Isn't Lord Prime Minister's worries too groundless? We can totally change the edict," Zhao Gao said with a frown. In fact, he wished that Ying Zheng would die right now so that he and Li Si could change the edict and set Hu Hai as the legal heir. "Idiot, have you forgotten about the school of Yin Yang? Do you think Wu Qin, that brat, will watch us change the edict?" Li Si looked at Zhao Gao in annoyance and said seriously, "And you've neglected one person. Fu Su and Meng Tian's relationship is very good. Meng Tian has 300,000 soldiers under him." "This, my lord, is right." Without hesitation, Zhao Gao rushed over to support Ying Zheng. Suddenly he felt that what Li Si said was very reasonable. In this era, whoever controlled the military power would in fact control everything. Puchi, Puchi, Puchi. On the other side, since Ying Zheng was the main target of the siege, the disciples of the School of Agriculture swarmed over. There were also many powerful warriors, even though Yueshan and Concubine Yen were both powerful warriors. But if Wei Zhuang, Gunye, Zaiyaozi, and the other powerful warriors of the School of Agriculture joined forces to besiege them, how long could they last? 2 fists were no match for 4 feet. The human wave tactic was still very effective against some people. Seriously, I've already decided to kill Ying Zheng. Concubine Yin and Yueshan don't have to work so hard. It's good that they can give up a little. Wu Qin, who was watching the situation silently, couldn't help but frown. He sighed and said, "Humans still need to know how to act according to the situation. Although the order I gave them before was to protect Ying Zheng's safety, I haven't shown up yet. It means that the plan has been changed. Concubine Yin and Yueshan should find a chance to escape. If Ying Zheng doesn't die, he will go to the Mirage sooner or later. Yun Zhongjuan's elixir of immortality is not completed yet. By then we..." Great Siming's face turned cold. Then she gritted her teeth and left. "Stop." Glancing at her, Dustless stopped her and said, "Great Siming, you don't have to worry about this. Just watch quietly." "But, no buts." Dustless interrupted Great Siming and said calmly in his heart, "No matter what, I am someone who has lived in a few worlds and killed countless immortals. If I can't even deal with an emperor, where am I going to put my face?" Dustless did not want to waste time explaining. He blinked his eyes gently. The reincarnation Sharingan in his left eye flowed with an evil radiance. Tomb of Samsara, border prison. A few shadows sped out in succession. They were silent and untraceable. In this world, no one could detect the shadow of Tomb of Samsara, border prison. It's not a loss for you to be able to die under this move. The power of Tomb of Samsara, border prison was undeniable. Dustless had used this move to kill a god. Now that Ying Zheng was killed by this move, it was definitely a top luxurious VIP treatment. Do you think I'm someone who can be killed by anyone? On the other side, Ying Zheng was surrounded by the disciples of the School of Agriculture. However, he was not afraid. His hawk-like eyes were filled with coldness. Those who were targeted by Ying Zheng felt as if they were sitting on pins and needles. Pfft. It was also at this moment that a bloody hole appeared on Ying Zheng's chest out of nowhere. The attack went through his entire body and destroyed his heart in an instant. How is this possible? Who did this? Ying Zheng looked at the wound on his chest in disbelief. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. No one attacked him. Why was there a bloody hole in his chest all of a sudden? Heaven's wrath. This must be heaven's wrath. Ying Zheng must have done all kinds of evil and angered the heavens. Someone in the crowd started to kick up a fuss. They attributed Ying Zheng's death to the heaven's masterpiece with groundless reasons. Needless to say, it did cause quite a commotion. Chapter 1965. The people in this era were not like the modern society in the future where all the mysteries could be explained by science. The people in this era believed in ghosts and gods. Especially when Ying Jing died in such a strange way, it was inevitable that everyone would think the wrong way. His chest had been perfectly fine all of a sudden, and now there was a bloody hole. Was this something a human could do? It must be the wrath of heaven. Run. His Majesty has triggered heaven. For the past few years, the Empire has brought disaster to the world. Millions of people have lost their homes. This is the wrath of heaven. That's right. Run if you don't want to die. Do you want your families to be implicated as well? Nobody knew who was the one who deliberately made the Qin soldiers panic. The soldiers threw away their armor and fled in all directions. It was hard to accept the wrath of heaven and the resentment of heaven if their families were implicated. Zhang Liang, this kid? Dustless could not help but give him a thumbs up and said in admiration, "This guy really knows how to take advantage of the situation. What wrath of heaven? It's all nonsense." The jade-faced young man who was making a fuss in the crowd was Zhang Liang. "Let's wait a little longer. It's almost time for us to go out and clean up the battlefield." Dustless stretched his body. He planned to take action later. It was too much of a coincidence that he appeared right after Ying Jing died. It was inevitable that some people would use this to their advantage. But if we leave them alone like this, those traitors will run away sooner or later. Great Ming looked worried as he gritted his teeth. He seemed to be very unwilling to give up. "It's okay." Hearing this, Dustless took a sip of tea calmly. Eliminating the rebels had always been his side job. His main purpose was to get the 7 constellations of Azure Dragon. As for those rebels, it was just a matter of convenience. Moreover, who told you that this group of traitors could escape? Don't forget that there are others besides us. At this moment, there are people who are more anxious than us. Dustless closed his eyes calmly and let his mind wander. Plop. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Ying Jing finally fell to the ground with a confused look. Until the moment of his death, he still did not understand how he died. Could it be that he had really angered the heavens? It was complete nonsense. Throughout history there were countless tyrants. Xia had tyrant Jie, Zhou had King Yu of Zhou, and Shang had King Zhou of Shang. They were all famous tyrants. Why didn't they die in such a bizarre way? Damn it, it must be some despicable person who plotted against me, Ying Jing roared in his heart, but he could not utter a single word. After a long while he closed his eyes completely. The heart was destroyed. Not to mention this backward era, even in the era where Wu Qin lived before, there was no way to save the heart. There was no way to save it. Your Majesty. Zhao Gao and Li Si, who had just arrived, were filled with grief and hatred. When they saw the hole in Ying Jing's chest, their faces turned pale, and they had a bad feeling that a great calamity was about to befall them. Of course, it was not that they cared about Qin Shi Huang, but after this emperor died, Fu Su would naturally ascend to the throne. At that time, wouldn't they be in trouble? We must not let Fu Su become the emperor. Zhao Gao and Li Si exchanged glances. In their hearts, they decided that they could not let Fu Su become the second Qin Shi Huang. Otherwise their good days would come to an end. In the past, the two of them had done many things to set Fu Su up, especially this assassination. Some of the assassins were arranged by Zhao Gao, and their goal was naturally to frame Fu Su. Quickly capture this group of rebels. After capturing them alive, interrogate the mastermind. Li Si waved his hand. Some of the Qin soldiers who did not escape, as well as the 6 sword slaves, swarmed over, and once again engaged in a brawl with the peasant soldiers. Zhao Gao, come here. Rolling his eyes, Li Si immediately called Zhao Gao over and sneered, I have a good plan. A good plan? Zhao Gao was overjoyed. As the prime minister, Li Si's shrewdness was unquestionable. Naturally, his plan was flawless. Order the 6 sword slaves to capture a few people alive. Make them confess that the person who ordered this assassination was Fu Su. Li Si's eyes shone with a light that seemed to be choosing people to devour. He sneered, we must let everyone in the world know that Ying Jing was killed by Fu Su. This way he will be despised by everyone. Let's see who will speak up for him. Ayaya, what are the two of you planning? At this moment, a voice without any warning entered Zhao Gao and Li Si's ears. The two of them were startled and turned to see that it was Dustless. Why is there no movement like a ghost? Li Si gloomily glared at Wu Qin and secretly cursed his bad luck. Everywhere we go we meet this guy. Why do the two of you have such ugly expressions? Dustless looked at Zhao Gao and Li Si with a smile and said directly, Ying Jing is dead. The two of you should be very happy. Don't you slander us. Hearing this, Zhao Gao's face changed and refuted, Dustless, how dare you call His Majesty by his name? This is, swoosh swoosh swoosh. At the same time, A deadly blade light swept over. The blade shone with a cold light that reflected on one's skin and caused a slight tingling sensation. What was worth mentioning was that the enemy locked onto by this fatal sharpness was neither Wu Qin nor Zhao Gao, but, "Prime Minister, get out of the way," Zhao Gao reminded with a sharp voice. Looking over, the person the blade light was pointing at was the stunned Li Si. Although Zhao Gao had reminded him, it was still too late. Li Si was not a martial artist and his reaction was much slower than a martial artist's. Puchi. A stream of crimson blood splashed in the air. The blade cut through Li Si's body and a right arm covered in blood appeared on the ground. It was Li Si's right arm. Chapter 1966. Li Si, kill me if you have the guts. Wei Zhuang's eyes were full of disdain. He didn't have Li Si's despotic power at all. He admitted that he was defeated by Dustless. There was always someone better than him. After all, Dustless had enough strength to despise everything. But what was a mere Li Si? To put it bluntly, in Wei Zhuang's eyes, although Li Si was a capable minister, he was jealous. He was good at scheming, but as for force, he was not even as good as a soldier of Qin state. A civil official was always a civil official. Wei Zhuang, you don't have to provoke me deliberately. I've been an official for many years. I'm no longer a hot-blooded young man like you. Li Si's arm was bleeding. Although the military doctor stopped the bleeding in time, it was still painful. He scolded angrily, "Do you want to die so easily? It's not that easy." "Ha!" Li Si laughed hysterically with blood in his gums. "I want you to taste all the pain in the world. I won't allow you to die so carelessly. Otherwise, I'll suffer a great loss." After all, he had lost an arm. If he didn't let Wei Zhuang experience it himself, Li Si really felt sorry for himself. Time flew and it was night in a flash. On the Mirage, overlooking the night scene of Shanghai City, everything in the world was changing in their eyes. Everything, including the red lights and green lights, the red light streets and alleys, flashed across their eyes. However, tonight's Shanghai City was a little different from before. Although it was still gorgeous, it was covered with an invisible shadow. There was no other reason. It was all because of Ying Zheng's death, which was no less bad than the collapse of the sky. Did you kill Ying Zheng? Inside the Mirage, Yueshin and concubine Yen stared at Dustless in shock. They both said worriedly, "Such a big crime is enough to wipe out the whole family 10 times. It's a pity that Ying Zheng won't have that chance." Hearing that, Dustless, who was lying on the main seat, opened his eyes and changed to a comfortable posture. He crossed his legs and said calmly, "Don't worry. No one in the world knows it was me. Go back and have a rest." Rest? Yueshin and concubine Yen looked at each other. Dustless asked them to go back and have a rest when the emperor was dead. Was he kidding? Ying Zheng was dead? Who could stay calm? How is the situation with Zhao Gao and Li Si? Dustless suddenly asked. In order to prevent Fu Su from ascending the throne, they will definitely do something desperate. I'm afraid Ying Zheng's posthumous edict is in Li Si's hands. There's no movement for now. Moon God gave Dustless a look that said, "Everything is under control. It's only temporary. Based on my guess, Zhao Gao and Li Si will probably change the edict to frame Fu Su and make Hu Hai the emperor," Dustless said with certainty. Are Zhao Gao and Li Si that bold? Imperial concubine Yen was suspicious of Dustless's words. Li Si usually looked like a loyal ruler. How could he do such a disgraceful thing? Don't think that this is a fantasy. The truth is the truth. Dustless was too lazy to continue explaining. He just seriously instructed the two women, "You two can go down. Remember to observe Li Si and Zhao Gao's every move." Understood. Moon God and Imperial concubine Yen nodded, bowed and left. In the huge hall, only Dustless was left. I've already sent Moon God and Imperial concubine Yen away. If you have anything to say, you can stand up and say it. There's no need to hide. A ripple swept across the void. The dead silent hall lingered. Dustless's calm voice spread to every corner. Tap, tap, tap. Following that, the sound of slow footsteps could be heard from the darkness. A woman with an enchanting appearance could be clearly seen. She was walking gracefully. But her delicate face was full of sadness. She couldn't sleep or eat well. "Qilian, although I didn't restrict your freedom on the Mirage, you were too bold to eavesdrop on my conversation with Moon God and the others. I gave you an inch and you wanted a mile." Dustless stared at Qilian indifferently. His tone was slightly cold. "Cut the crap. What do you want to save Wei Zhuang?" Hope appeared in Qi Lian's crystal eyes. She looked at Wu Chen with a longing expression and said in a low voice, "If you are willing to save Lord Wei Zhuang, I can be your slave or maid. I will do whatever you want. Is it worth it? Maybe in Wei Zhuang's eyes you are just a chess piece, a sword." Dustless sighed. He was envious of Wei Zhuang's good luck. Then he said bluntly, "It's a pity that you are too late. Wei Zhuang was dismembered by Li Si a few hours ago." Dismembered by 5 horses? Hearing this, Qi Lian felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She was stunned. That's right. Li Si killed Wei Zhuang with the cruelest punishment as soon as he captured him. So, it's useless for you to beg me to save Wei Zhuang. Dustless said coldly. If it weren't for him, even Qi Lian would have died. Damn Li Si. How dare he kill Lord Wei Zhuang? I will avenge him. After saying that, Qi Lian left angrily. It seemed that she was going to make trouble for Li Si. Qi Lian, Li Si is protected by the 6-sword slave. I'm afraid you will be killed in a second. Dustless's sudden words made Qi Lian's heart turn to ashes. She couldn't help but smile bitterly. Anyone who challenged the 6-sword slave seemed to be doomed. Yes, he can. An invincible figure suddenly appeared in her mind. Qi Lian wept with joy. Then she strode toward Dustless, who was sitting on the main seat. Help me kill Li Si. I can promise you anything. As soon as she said that, Qi Lian's eyes were filled with lust. She deliberately pulled her clothes down to her chest. Dustless saw her snow-white and flawless skin. Chapter 1967. On the main seat, Dustless quietly sized up Qi Lian. Her fair cheeks were rosy and her entire body was filled with a mature aura. Every inch of her skin was brimming with a scent that could stir one's heart. What a seductress. I have to say you are very charming. Dustless gently sniffed the lingering fragrance on Qi Lian's body and nodded in admiration. You agree? Qi Lian was overjoyed when she heard this. She deliberately stroked her hair coquettishly and made some outrageous moves. Some of the private parts of her body that could not be taken lightly were all exposed in front of Dustless. If this fellow agrees, Li Si's head will be mine. Qi Lian smiled at Dustless. Her thin lips were close to Dustless's face as she softly said, "If that's the case, won't you agree?" "It's fine if you agree." "You bastard, are you messing with me?" Qi Lian was suddenly enraged. Dustless might have praised her as a seductress, but the expression on his face clearly stated that he was indifferent. Wu Chen's indifferent gaze did not move at all. His expression was as calm as an ancient well. What made Qi Lianhua even more surprised was that the corners of Wu Chen's lips curled up into a sneer. "Qi Lian, you don't have to lie to me." Dustless glanced at Qi Lian indifferently and said in a bored manner, "Your tricks are too childish. Don't think that your intelligence is superior to others and that you are special. That's just too laughable." "What do you mean?" Qi Lian's expression stiffened when she heard this. She pretended to be confused and said, "Dustless, I don't understand what you are saying. As long as you bring Li Si's head here, I will agree to any of your requests. Remember, any request." Qi Lian was afraid that Dustless would not understand and purposely blew a breath of hot air into his ear. Dustless's expression immediately changed when he saw that this woman was still so full of herself. He sneered and said, "Qi Lian, I advise you not to waste your effort. I'm afraid that you will commit suicide by drinking poison right after I kill Li Si, right?" "You?" Qi Lian's face suddenly jumped twice as he raised his head and looked straight into Dustless's eyes. Those clear eyes seemed to be able to see through one's heart. Qi Lian hurriedly moved his eyes away. "Am I wrong?" Dustless smiled disdainfully. "For you, Wei Zhuang is your belief. He is your everything. Now that he is dead, there is no need for you to continue living. Am I right?" Sorting out his thoughts, Dustless continued to say in a cold voice, "You offered such generous conditions. At the root of it all, it's just to instigate me to kill Li Si, then commit suicide yourself. Although I can understand your actions, your way of doing things is too foolish." In reality, Dustless would definitely kill Li Si even if Crimson Viper didn't say anything. Therefore, from a certain perspective, Qi Lian's actions from before were completely asking for humiliation. It was completely useless and would only make Dustless hate her even more. "Goodbye." Glancing at the despondent Qi Lian, Dustless casually left. People who liked to think that they were clever often thought that they were special and could scheme against anyone. In reality, this kind of thinking was laughable and ignorant. Everyone had the same head and 2 hands. There was no difference. Moreover, Dustless was a proper transmigrator. Just based on Qi Lian and he still wanted to scheme against him, wasn't that too childish? Bang, bang, bang. A commotion came from the Mulberry Sea Villa. Looking carefully, the floor was littered with all kinds of exquisite porcelain shards. Under the dim candlelight, one could see the reflections of several people on the floor. Imperial Father was killed in broad daylight, yet none of you were able to find the culprit. What's the point of having a bunch of rice cooks like you? Fu Su threw a rare tantrum. The two people in front of him were Li Si and Zhao Gao. Young master, you can't blame me or the Prime Minister for this matter. The person who spoke was Zhao Gao. This time his tone was different from before. It was filled with coldness and a trace of disdain. Moreover, the biggest difference was that Zhao Gao had always lowered his head to speak. This time he looked directly into Fu Su's eyes. Even Li Si did the same. Don't blame you? Hearing this, Fu Su was so angry that he laughed. He angrily rebuked, you two dare to quibble. Imperial Father was assassinated in front of the two of you. You can't even find the culprit, and you say it has nothing to do with you? How dare you? Young master, this matter indeed has nothing to do with us. Li Si also helped Zhao Gao. Their actions were the same. They no longer lowered their heads to look at Fu Su. Instead they looked directly into his eyes. Their tone was neither servile nor overbearing. What's wrong with these two today? They have a temper. Seeing this, Fu Su frowned. He naturally noticed the change in their tone. The culprit who tried to assassinate His Majesty did not run away. He is right in front of us. Zhao Gao smiled evilly. His face was filled with a twisted evil smile. It made one shudder. Seeing this, Fu Su subconsciously took a few steps back. That's right. Li Si also nodded. His eyes were filled with a sinister smile. Young master, do you still not understand? At this moment, Zhao Gao suddenly spoke. He sneered and said, that group of assassins shouted, clear the name of Lord Changping. Don't you feel that you are the most suspicious? I know your relationship with Lord Changping. The real culprit behind this should be you, young master Fu Su? Li Si was indeed a politician. He misinterpreted a deer as a horse and pushed all the blame to Fu Su. Chapter 1968. What did you say? Hearing this, Fu Su was stunned. He did not expect Li Si to say such a thing. It was obvious that Li Si was being unreasonable and pushing all the blame to him, the crown prince of the empire. It was a complete joke. Was there a need for the future heir to assassinate Ying Jing? To put it bluntly, as long as Ying Jing died, the throne would be Fu Su's. Li Si, are you crazy? Fu Su's face was red and he was so angry that he felt dizzy. Why would I assassinate my father? There is no reason at all. Is it just because Lord Changping is my uncle? Pedantic. Between an uncle and a biological son, it was clear who was closer. Humph, whether there is such a thing or not, we will know once we capture him and interrogate him. Li Si sneered as he looked at Zhao Gao. His cold eyes were obviously telling Zhao Gao to capture Fu Su. I understand, Prime Minister. Zhao Gao laughed sinisterly as he slowly walked towards Fu Su. His face maintained an exaggerated demon-like smile. It was very creepy. You two bastards still want to capture me? The veins on Fu Su's forehead were popping as he clenched his fists tightly. He finally understood that Zhao Gao and Li Si were being unreasonable and wanted to remove him as the heir to the throne. We are not capturing. Li Si spoke again. After sorting out his thoughts, he explained softly, we just hope that young master can stay with the great elder for a while. After we find out that it has nothing to do with young master, we will naturally release you. How dare you? Unable to tolerate it any longer, Fu Su roared, Li Si, get a clear picture of who you are and who I am. Do you think you can lock me up in jail? A mere prime minister does not have the right to do so. I say, young master, you are the one who does not know who you are. Zhao Gao sneered as he secretly scolded Fu Su for being an idiot. Until now, he still did not know why he was imprisoned. It was not an investigation, but to force Fu Su to commit suicide in the prison. These two dogs of a slave sure have some guts. At the same time, an extremely discordant voice sounded. Zhao Gao and Li Si's faces twitched. They would never forget this nightmarish voice. Master Dustless? Seeing who it was, Fu Su was overjoyed and said excitedly, Grandmaster, please help me get rid of Li Si and Zhao Gao, these two traitors. Fu Su will definitely reward you greatly. Humph, a heavy reward? How laughable. Fu Su, do you still think you can live on? Zhao Gao sneered at Fu Su, directly calling him by his name. Dustless, as the saying goes, there is no absolute enemy. If you are willing to join us, You will definitely have a place in the imperial court of the Qin state in the future. The person who spoke was none other than Li Si. If Dustless was really willing to submit, he didn't mind forgetting their past grudges. Seriously, are your ears stuffed with donkey hair? Didn't you hear what I called you? You two dog slaves are really audacious. Dustless looked at the two of them mockingly. His words had already made his position clear. You want to die. Li Si didn't want to waste words. Waving his remaining arm, he snarled, Wei Zhuang was dismembered by 5 horses. I will definitely dismember you by 10 horses. Is that so? Hearing this, Dustless showed a surprised expression. He pretended to be overjoyed and said, Minister, for treating me so well, I am really grateful. Sharp-tongued brat. Li Si's eyes flashed with cold light. Waving his hand, he was about to order the 6 sword slaves to attack Dustless when an unexpected change occurred. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A large amount of light suddenly condensed behind Li Si's back, and a pair of cold eyes appeared. Prime Minister, behind you. Seeing that Li Si was still looking for the missing Wu Chen with a silly look, Zhao Gao hurriedly reminded him loudly, that brat Wu Chen is right behind you. What? Li Si was shocked. He turned his head to look, but what hit him back was a sharp blade light and sword shadow, mercilessly chopping at one of his shoulders. Puchi. Li Si's remaining arm was once again chopped off by Dustless. Li Si howled in pain. Blood flowed out from his wound again. Because the heaven-gathering cloud sword also carried a fatal light attribute attack, the smell of burnt flesh filled the air. Ping ping ping. Li Si's previous arm was chopped off by Wei Zhuang, which was already tragic enough. Now that Dustless had chopped off his other arm, was there any meaning in living in the future? Without both arms, what was the point of living? Damn Dustless, I will definitely dismember you into 1,000 pieces, peel off your skin, pull out your bones and ruthlessly trample on you. Li Si was in so much pain that he was sweating profusely. His eyeballs had turned blood red as if they would pop out at any time. Ah, you still want to spout such arrogant words at this stage? Dustless stared speechlessly at the wailing Li Si on the ground and sighed. Li Si, spouting such arrogant words will only make you seem even more fragile. Li Si was just a scholar. What right did he have to dismember him into 1,000 pieces, or even peel off his skin and pull out his bones? It was all complete nonsense. It was so laughable that he wanted to die. Furthermore, Li Si, you seem to have misunderstood something. With a cold expression, Dustless raised the heaven-gathering cloud sword and said regretfully, This will be the last time we meet, Minister. In the future we will never meet again. Xiao xiao xiao. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden light pierced through Li Si's body, leaving behind visible wounds. Puchi. Li Si was killed by Dustless from the waist down, completely losing his breath. As the Prime Minister of a generation, he actually fell to such a tragic end. It was truly tragic. Chapter 1969. Zhao Gao stared blankly at Li Si's body that had been split into 2. He did not expect Dustless to be so cruel and heartless, killing a Prime Minister without any hesitation or mercy. You dare to kill the Prime Minister? Zhao Gao's voice was sharp and shrill as he stared angrily. Such a crime is enough to sentence you to death 100 times. Li Si dared to commit treason, he deserved to die. In my opinion, the mastermind behind the assassination of my father was instigated by the 2 of you. Fu Su's face was filled with hatred as he looked at Li Si's corpse. He said with a tone that said he deserved it, Li Si deserved to die. It is too easy for him to die so hastily. According to the laws of the Great Qin Empire, such a crime should be punished with chariot splitting, as a warning to others. However, Li Si did not receive this honor. You have to enjoy it for him, Zhao Gao. Fu Su's gaze landed on Zhao Gao's head as he said coldly, In your dreams. Zhao Gao spat as his eyes were filled with determination. Did you hear that? Zhao Gao, you are going to die from chariot splitting? Dustless looked at him with pity, not caring about Zhao Gao's face that was turning purple. Bastards, chop them into pieces. The enraged Zhao Gao no longer hid his intentions as he roared, Fu Su, you are not suitable to be the emperor. It is better for you to give the throne to Hu Hai. Go and die. Xiao xiao xiao. The moment he said that, the 6 sword slaves attacked from all directions. They waved their swords and the sharpness was fatal. Stupid things that don't know death. Seeing this, Dustless did not show any mercy. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, he had to eliminate all of them. The chakra in his body gathered as an overwhelming repulsive force exploded. Shinra Tensei. The powerful repulsive force burst out of his body and formed a perfect 360-degree circle that was watertight like an iron bucket. Ping ping ping. The 6 figures who were rushing over were completely unaware of the situation and were instantly sent flying back over a dozen meters. Their bodies were covered in blood and their bones were dislocated and broken. A bunch of trash. Seeing this, Zhao Gao cursed loudly, feeling extremely helpless in his heart. If it were anyone else, the slave of the 6 swords could easily suppress them. But if the opponent is dustless, the slave of the 6 swords doesn't seem to have any advantage. Zhao Gao muttered to himself in his heart, feeling a burst of anger. Without any countermeasures, he could only face the opponent himself. Swish, swish. Zhao Gao sped over. His big hand was surrounded by clouds of black gas. It was eerie and strange. It seemed that anything that came into contact with it would inevitably embark on the path of destruction. Too weak. Seeing this, Dustless shook his head gently. Without wasting any time, he gathered light in his hand and flicked his finger. Laser. Swish, swish. The beam of light came and left in a hurry. Zhao Gao was extremely miserable. His speed was very fast, but the speed of the beam of light was even more unbelievable. Almost as soon as the arrow was shot out, it had already pierced through his body. There was no room for him to counterattack. Puchi. Zhao Gao's abdomen was attacked like never before, and a hole about the size of a thumb appeared on his body. Plop. Receiving an unprecedented injury, Zhao Gao's face was pale. In the end, he collapsed to the ground, trembling as he touched the fatal hole in his abdomen. The pain was unbearable. If you have the guts, then kill me, Dustless. Zhao Gao continued to say stubbornly. His ferocious eyes looked as if he wanted to swallow Dustless alive. If it wasn't for this guy's sudden appearance, Dustless might have already died in prison. Everything was Dustless' fault. Kill you in such a hurry? That's too easy for you. Dustless sat down comfortably and gloated. Zhao Gao, as the controller of the net, you should know that the most torturous thing in the world is not to let him die in such a hurry. Give him a physical and mental blow, making him beg for death. You bastard. When Zhao Gao heard Dustless's words, he felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that Dustless would not let him go so easily. Especially from his tone, it would be a great honor for him to die with his body intact. Don't move. Let go of the master. At this moment, an unexpected voice was heard. He turned around and saw that it was one of the 6 sword slaves, Wanshan. This guy endured the pain of his head bleeding, grabbed his sword, and held it against Fu Su's throat. Ah, well done. Seeing this, Zhao Gao suddenly laughed like crazy. He did not know where he got the strength from, but his body, which could not take the burden, miraculously stood up again. However, before Zhao Gao could be happy for long, tragedy struck. Pedantic. Dustless's eyes only glanced at Wanshan's body. Then, something unbelievable happened in front of Zhao Gao. Why is my body suddenly on fire? It's so hot. He only glanced at Wanshan, and his body burned with an unknown black fire. Tenso. Those 2 words were scary as if they were filled with magic. The moment they fell, Wanshan's body disappeared with the wind. Not even a corpse was left behind. His whole person was wiped out. Zhao Gao was shocked. You are such an arrogant bug. If I were you, I would use my last bit of strength to run away. I would not stay here and threaten others. In my entire life, I hate short-sighted people who threaten me. Dustless closed his eyes and spoke to himself. It was as if he had done something insignificant. From what he could see, Wanshan was stupid. Zhao Gao did not just treat him as a pawn. Chapter 1970. Damn it. Seeing this, Zhao Gao clenched his teeth in anger and cursed. Wanshan is a piece of trash. He was killed instantly. If I knew he was so useless, I would have killed him earlier. Zhao Gao's face was twisted. His already pale face was even scarier. He looked like an evil spirit. He was a piece of trash in the Luonet organization that did not need to be killed instantly. Wu Chen's brows slightly raised, and he sincerely felt that it was not worth it for the slave of the 6 swords. To have a master like Zhao Gao, it could be considered as 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Zhao Gao, is it not done yet? Is Fu Su, that brat, dead? At this moment, an unexpected voice suddenly came. Dustless and the others looked over. A handsome young man with heterochromatic eyes came into view. Hu Hai. Although Dustless did not recognize him, Zhao Gao and Fu Su recognized him immediately. This, Hu Hai also looked at the miserable scene in a daze. What he saw were many corpses. The scene was too horrible to look at. The air was filled with the smell of blood. Blurg, with a slight breath, the smell of blood could be breathed into the lungs. Hu Hai could not help but vomit. Hu Hai, give me an explanation. Fu Su's face was unfriendly. There was a rare ferocious look on his face. He used to have a good impression of his younger brother. Although they had the same father but different mothers, they still had a lot in common. But what Fu Su did not expect was that this younger brother of his who usually looked amiable was actually so vicious. He played tricks in front of others and behind others, and even viciously wanted to kill him. I have something to do. I'll leave first. Realizing that something was wrong, Hu Hai turned around and ran. He was like a breeze and disappeared in an instant. Damn you. Why didn't I see you this powerful when you were cultivating? You are the best at escaping. Zhao Gao was furious. He cursed himself for being wrong in the past. If he had been willing to serve Fu Su, he would not have ended up in such a miserable state. You are a hopeless fool. Although your speed is not bad, but Dustless's body emitted a large amount of photons that instantly disappeared without a trace. It was like a divine rainbow that descended from the heavens, blocking Hu Hai's path. In front of the light there are no exceptions. Seeing Dustless blocking his way, Hu Hai hurriedly threatened loudly, "Get out of my way. I'm a prince. Do you know the consequences of offending me? Be careful or I'll exterminate 9 generations of your family, no, 10 generations of your family. Exterminate 10 of my clans." Dustless couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. He teased, "I say kid, are you sure you want to annihilate my 10 clans? Let me tell you, the so-called 10 clans include friends. Your brother Fu Su is also one of my friends. Do you want to kill him as well? You've got guts." "You," Hu Hai flew into a rage out of humiliation. He raised his fist and punched Dustless in the face. "No matter what, you are still a prince. I'll give you a special treatment." The spiritual pressure in Dustless's body surged as a destructive sharpness floated out of his body. A faint black light appeared in the void as it slashed toward Hu Hai. Dao breaking 90, black coffin. Puchi. In just an instant, Hu Hai's body was sliced into 8 pieces, turning into a pile of mush. "Humph, you asked for it." Fu Su snorted. He might be kind and generous, but it didn't mean that he was stupid. Fu Su wouldn't sympathize with a conspiracy that wanted to kill his younger brother. "Young master." At the same time, a large number of Qin soldiers rushed over, led by Zhang Han's shadow secret guard. Zhang Han came too late. "Please forgive me, young master." Forgetting about the corpses on the ground, Zhang Han got down on one knee in shame. After all, he was responsible for Fu Su's safety. In truth, it wasn't Zhang Han's fault. No one had expected Zhao Gao and Li Si to betray him. Even if he had come, he wouldn't have been able to do anything. It was impossible for him to stop the 6 sword slaves. This brat might be loyal now, but in the future he'll be a true traitor of Qin. Wu Chen muttered in his heart. In history, Zhang Han was a character with mixed reputations. He led the soldiers of the Qin state and was defeated by Xiang Yu. Later he surrendered to Xiang Yu without any moral integrity. In the end he was even crowned as a king. However, the heavens were always fair. Traitors never had a good ending. Even though Zhang Han was crowned king, he was still defeated by Liu Bang, the founding emperor of the Han dynasty. After the city fell, he committed suicide. "If not for Master Dustless, I might have been killed." Fu Su couldn't help but sigh. When he recalled the scene of Li Si and Zhao Gao forcing him to abdicate, he still felt a lingering fear. "Don't mention it. The school of Yin Yang and the Qin dynasty are on the same side, so this is my duty." Dustless smiled, indicating that there was no need for Fu Su to thank him. After chatting for a while, Dustless returned to the elusive mirage. What happened next had nothing to do with him. After all, the throne was undoubtedly Fu Su's. However, as soon as he returned to the elusive mirage, an unexpected guest came to visit him. Tian Yen of the School of Nong? When Dustless heard that Tian Yen of the School of Nong wanted to see him, his first thought was to defect. Most of the School of Nong's disciples who tried to assassinate Ing Zheng came from the School of Nong, and almost all of them were killed by the Qin army. Perhaps Tian Yen felt that the future of the anti-Qin alliance was bleak, so he followed Tian Mi and joined the light. It was normal for Tian Yen to want to join the School of Nong. After all, he was the smartest person in the School of Nong, and his foresight was not something others could compare to. "According to my guess, she's most likely here to forsake the darkness and join the light. The last time we attacked Ing Zheng, the farmer's clan suffered heavy losses. Moon Goddess, just tell her that I have something to do and leave her out for a few days. Let's show that woman who's in charge, lest she's as self-righteous as Tianmi who doesn't have the attitude of a loser. Since he wanted to surrender, he should know his own identity and not cooperate. Chapter 1971. He was already beaten like a dog, yet he still wanted to talk about cooperation. This was simply too laughable. Sect Master, why do you have to bully a weak girl like me? Doing so will only ruin your sect's reputation. In the brightly lit hall, a rather crisp voice suddenly rang out. However, it sounded a little sickly, powerless and very tired. Yueshin, this girl? Dustless looked at Yueshin with resentment. He did not expect Tianyan to be standing at the side. He did not notice her at all. He instinctively thought that he and Yueshin were the only ones in the large hall. Yueshin naturally noticed Dustless's resentful gaze. She immediately put on a look of indifference. Weak girl? Dustless rolled his eyes and said, if I remember correctly, Miss Tian is the hall master of Lai Mountain Hall. Such an important position is not something a weak girl can take on. Sect Master, you flatter me. Tianyan is just a first-level girl. Tianyan said softly. Then she looked at Dustless quietly. As a hall master it sounded impressive. However, it was not. She had her own difficulties. First of all, Tianyan was born weak and sickly. The work of a hall master was not suitable for her. Secondly, in a feudal society men were superior to women. Sometimes, it was inevitable that she would be bullied. For example, her second uncle, Tian Hu, would sometimes threaten her. Of course, these were not the most important factors. After the last battle, the morale of the entire School of Agriculture was very low. Although Ing Zheng was dead, the School of Agriculture had lost a large number of elite disciples. Then Miss Tian, may I ask if you have adjusted your status? Don't be like Tianmi. She thinks she can cooperate with me. She is not qualified at all. Of course, if you want to cooperate, I hope to get something that is beneficial to me. Tianmi's figure appeared in Wu Chen's mind. He could not help but sneered. Tianmi and I will cooperate with each other on Zhang Liang's head and Rong Er's head. However, Zhang Liang's head has yet to be delivered. I see. Tianyan was enlightened. Her expression softened slightly. She looked surprised. No wonder that woman, Tianmi, is so proud of herself recently. It turns out that she has boarded the Yinyang School's pirate ship and is planning to secretly steal Zhang Liang's head. Tianyan pondered in his heart. Rather than calling it cooperation, it was actually an unequal treaty. Of course you can refuse. Please go back now, Miss Tian. Dustless glanced at the moon god and waved his hand, indicating for her to see the guest out. Please, Miss Tian. Ignoring the frowning Tianyan, the moon goddess made an inviting gesture. Is this how the school of Yinyang treats their guests? Tianyan snorted and said in a slightly displeased tone, forgive me for being blunt, but the Yinyang school doesn't have the magnanimity of the head of the 100 schools of thought. What a joke. Hearing this, Dustless immediately snorted coldly and said in a deep voice, whether or not I'm the head of the 100 schools of thought doesn't depend on words. It still depends on this. Dustless shook his fist. His meaning was self-evident. Only one's fist could measure everything. Everything else was just a joke. Phew. Seeing that Dustless was so insensible, Tianyan could only take a deep breath to stabilize her complicated emotions. It seemed that she had no choice but to compromise. I have something that the school of Yinyang is very interested in. After I give it to you, what will happen to the school of thought in the end? Tianyan stated her condition. At the same time she took out a bundle carefully. It looked like a very precious item. That depends on what it is. Dustless smiled and said softly, the school of thought will naturally be destroyed. Who asked them to go against me? As for your Lai Mountain Hall and Tianmi's Kuei Hall, they will naturally be preserved. Is this your bottom line? Tianyan was displeased. She wanted the entire school of thought to be safe and sound, not just Lai Mountain Hall and Kuei Hall. I hope you will respect yourself, Miss Tian. Although I don't know what you have brought, it will be best if it can move me. If it can't, your Lai Mountain Hall will also be unlucky. Wu Qin stretched and immediately changed to a comfortable position. Moreover, everything has its value. It's good enough to let go of your Lai Mountain Tang. You have to know how to be tactful. I think you should understand the principle that a human's heart is not like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Well, take it. In the end, Tianmi took the silver tooth and threw the bundle away. Straightforward. I like to make deals with Miss Tianyan's people. That Tianmi wanted to plot against me. Her character is too bad. If it weren't for the fact that she would give me Zhang Liang's head, her head would have fallen to the ground. Seeing the bundle thrown to him, Dustless nodded with satisfaction and reached out to grab it. Wanxiang Tianing. What treasure is it? Why is it so mysterious? Sucking the bundle over, Dustless could not wait to shatter the cloth, revealing an extremely delicate brocade box about the size of a football. I believe that this thing will definitely satisfy the hierarch. Tianyin showed a confident smile. It seemed that she had a card up her sleeve and was sure that this thing would pique Dustless's interest. This thing has an extraordinary significance to the school of Yin Yang. After a moment of silence, Tianyin suddenly added, extraordinary significance to the school of Yin Yang? Hearing this, Dustless looked at Tianyin in surprise. This woman seemed to know a lot about the school of Yin Yang. Things that had an extraordinary significance to the school of Yin Yang were really rare. Other than the phantasmal sound treasure box, it seemed that there was only, could it be that? Suddenly remembering something, Dustless opened the brocade box in a hurry. Sure enough, there was a golden copper box that he had been yearning for day and night. It really is the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Why would this thing fall into the hands of your school of thought? Chapter 1972. Dustless's heart was filled with astonishment. He had never expected that this thing would fall into the hands of the farmer party. The two were completely unrelated. The farmer party has 100,000 disciples, and their ability to gather information is second among the 100 schools of thought. No one dares to claim to be first, Tianyin said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. Her words were filled with a faint smugness. You have a point. Hearing this, Dustless uncharacteristically agreed with Tianyin's point of view. He stared at the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon and then sighed. I really don't understand why Ling wants this thing. Divine might. Space twisted as Dustless sucked the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon into a different space. The 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon and the Yellowstone Heavenly Book have been obtained. After countless twists and turns, the mission was completed. Dustless gave a rare, happy and sincere smile. His gaze softened as he looked at Tianyin. He said warmly, if the farmer party is willing to give up on opposing the Qin, I can reluctantly let them go. You have the right to do this? You have already exceeded your authority. Tianyin's face was filled with shock. Pardon or convict the farmer party seemed to be the emperor's right. With my relationship with Fusu, he will definitely give me this face. Fusu was a generous person and knew how to repay kindness. If Dustless asked, he would agree. After all, Dustless had saved him many times. Especially this time, if not for Dustless, not only would Fusu's life have ended, the Qin Empire might have collapsed. However, Dustless suddenly changed the topic and continued, Miss Tian, don't think that this is the case for everyone. Dirty things will always be dirty things. No matter how you wash them, they will always have flaws. Tianyin fell silent. She naturally knew what Dustless meant. Those stubborn anti-Qin people would probably die no matter what. For example, his second uncle Tian Hu, the barely surviving Gunya Tianming Xiaoyu, and the others would definitely die. Time flew by and another 3 days passed in a hurry. During this period of time, many big things had happened. What was worth mentioning was that Fusu had naturally become the successor of the Great Qin Empire. In history, this position had belonged to Hu Hai, and it was Hu Hai who had caused the collapse of the Great Qin Empire. That fellow Fusu is indeed the same as the rumors. He is much kinder than his father Ing Zheng. On the mirage, Dustless looked at the distant sea. Under the glow of the sunset, the entire sea seemed to be plated with a layer of dazzling gold. As the saying went, a new official makes 3 sweeping changes. Fusu, the new emperor, was not an exception. He first abolished the harsh laws of the Qin, and removed all the insane punishments. This caused the Qin to receive much support from the people. Cruel punishments such as being dismembered by 5 horses were all cancelled. Secondly, it was worth mentioning that Fusu respected the Confucian school and was very grateful to Dustless. He had included many of the Confucian school's sages in the country's constitution and had even conferred some of the people in the Little Sage Manor official positions. Of course, Dustless was also within the scope of the invitation, but he rejected it. The reason was very simple. Letting Dustless destroy a world was his specialty. As for governing a country, it was better to find someone else. Bang bang bang. At this moment, the sound of porcelain breaking suddenly rang out. Dustless turned his head slightly and stared at the enraged woman. When he saw the shattered porcelain on the ground, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Tianmi, get this straight. This is the mirage, not your Kuei Hall. The person who had broken the porcelain in anger was the enraged Tianmi. At this moment, she was glaring at Dustless, and the anger in her eyes could not be concealed. Is the Yinyang school so despicable? How dare you go back on your words? The anger in Tianmi's heart grew stronger and stronger. Her entire body was bright red as if she was about to be burned. Her entire body was filled with scorching heat waves. Go back on my words? Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly and said calmly, I don't know what you're talking about, but please pay attention to your status. This is the mirage of the Yinyang school. It's not a place for a shrew like you to vent your anger. Dustless's sudden words almost made Tianmi faint. She glared at Dustless and trembled with anger. How dare you call me a shrew? That's right. In my eyes, you're a shrew who goes back on her words. Dustless looked at Tianmi's burning eyes and repeated softly. How long has it been? You haven't brought Zhang Liang's head yet, and you still dare to break things in the mirage. If you're not a shrew, what are you? I'm not the only one who goes back on her words. Since the Yinyang school has cooperated with our Kuei Hall, why do you still contact that woman Tianyan? Isn't this going back on your words? Tianmi's words were like pearls. She had sent people to secretly observe Tianyan's every move. Even if I go back on my words, you're the one who went back on your words first. Zhang Liang's head has been delayed again and again. My patience has been exhausted, so I have to find another way out. If I had known that the Kuei Hall was so useless, I would have killed you decisively instead of talking about cooperation with you. After all, the way I handled this matter was naive. Dustless belittled Tianmi and her Kuei Hall as worthless. He did not care about Tianmi's livid and murderous face at all. Dustless was not scared. Are you going to tear up the cooperation agreement? Tianmi asked coldly. If I wanted to tear up the agreement, you would have been torn into pieces by now. But it's undeniable that I have a better partner. It's possible for me to tear up the agreement. You know what it means to choose the best tree to nest in, don't you? So, if you don't want you and the force behind you to be destroyed, then work hard. Chapter 1973. Despicable bastard, stop talking to yourself. Tianmi glared at him. Dustless's contact with Tianyan had already crossed her bottom line. Now, Dustless's attitude really angered her. You're getting a little carried away. Have you forgotten what I said before? With a cold expression, Dustless said coldly, it seems that your value needs to be reassessed so that you won't be as arrogant as you are now. Reassess. Hearing this, Tianmi snorted disdainfully. Suddenly, her charming face changed and she said with a smile, Sect Master, do you know why I handed Sister Duanmu to you? Don't call me Sister Duanmu. You're not qualified. You two are not familiar with each other. Dustless looked at Tianmi indifferently. He found this woman more and more unpleasant to the eye. Huh? Unexpectedly, Tianmi was not disgusted by Dustless's disgusted tone. Instead, she laughed in relief. However, there was a sting in her laughter, which made Dustless even more unhappy. Miss Tianmi, when Dustless was about to give the order to expel her, Tianmi suddenly spoke. Sect Master, is Miss Duanmu lacking physical strength these few days and has not eaten? Even if she has eaten some food, it would be coarse grains like porridge. Tianmi suddenly changed the topic. On the surface it sounded like nonsense, but Dustless frowned. How do you know? Dustless narrowed his eyes. He keenly sensed that something was wrong. Duanmu Rong really had these symptoms, but Dustless did not care. Perhaps she was not acclimatized to a new environment. Could it be? Thinking of Tianmi's nature, Dustless's face suddenly fell. He said sternly, could it be that you poisoned Ronger? Yes. Looking into Dustless's eyes, Tianmi admitted frankly and explained, my strength is not as good as Sect Master's, so I can only do it from other aspects. Don't talk about Sect Master's friends. They are much more careless. So it was poisoned? Dustless's eyes rolled, and the killing intent that he had hidden instinctively burst out in an instant. Tianmi, do you know what your actions are? Dustless forcibly suppressed the rage in his body and said in a hoarse voice, Heaven has opened a bright path for you, but you heartlessly rejected it. Instead you chose the dark path to hell. Are you so stupid that no medicine can save you? You still dare to talk to me with such an attitude. Hearing this, Tianmi's face twitched. Dustless's woman was poisoned, and this guy still dared to be so arrogant. He really didn't care about Duanmu Rong's life at all. Jiejie? Dustless gradually revealed his true nature. His eyes were filled with blood mist, and his entire being was as cold as ice. Perhaps you know about my past and feel how stupid your actions are. As soon as his voice fell, Dustless's eyes began to spin, and the Sharingan emitted an ominous light. What do you want to do? Tianmi's face was full of fear. Seeing Dustless's blood-red eyes, her body was boiling uncontrollably, and her whole body was filled with an indescribable oppression. What do I want to do? You will understand immediately. Dustless smiled evilly, stared at Tianmi's eyes and said, have you tried the legendary torture of death by 1,000 cuts, car splitting, and knee digging? Gulp. Hearing this, Tianmi reflexively took a few steps back. She couldn't help but touch Dustless's bottom line. She quickly said, you want to ignore Duanmu Rong's life? If you kill me, she will also die. Didn't I tell you before? Being protective of the fairer sex doesn't mean that you won't kill women. Dragons have reverse scales and you will die slowly in panic. No matter who it was, traitors were extremely hated, and Dustless was no exception. Even the extent of his hatred for Tianmi reached an unprecedented level. This fellow said that she would cooperate with him, but secretly she poisoned Duanmu Rong. What's the use of keeping such a vicious person? It's best to send her to heaven. Tsukuyami. With a slight blink of her eyes, Tianmi's pupils instantly turned dark and empty. Plop. In the next second, Tianmi fell to the ground, as if she was experiencing an unprecedented panic. Her entire body was drenched in sweat. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Dustless saw the terrified Tianmi and couldn't help but shake his head. Then, he decisively walked over, and his eyes turned into the Samsara Sharingan. I can extract your memories and see the antidote and the location of the farmer family's group. The big hand grabbed Tianmi's head, and a majestic memory suddenly poured into her mind. Everything about Tianmi's past and the farmer family's secret base appeared in Dustless's eyes. Dustless was extracting Tianmi's memories, and at this moment, something incredible was happening in another direction. What? Lai Mountain Tang wants to withdraw from the alliance and give up hunting down Dustless? In the dead silent room, Tianhu's angry voice sounded. He smashed the table angrily and cursed, "What's wrong with a yen? How dare he tear up the agreement we made? This I don't know. Miss also advised us to abandon the dark and join the light and stop resisting the Qin state." Tianzhong said helplessly. "Give up? No way. Ingzheng is dead now, how can we just give up like that?" Thought Wuqi. In the future, when the Qin state is overthrown, I want to try the emperor's position under his butt. Tianhu's face was full of longing. Facing the emperor's position, no one could let it go. In that case, why don't we go all the way and just give Lai Mountain Tang? Tianzhong made a throat-cutting gesture, and the meaning was self-evident. Chapter 1974. You mean to kill them? Tianhu understood what Tianzhong meant immediately. He shook his head resolutely and said, "Tianzhong, we can kill Tianyan, but we can't destroy Lai Mountain Hall." "What do you think, brother?" Tianzhong asked curiously. In his eyes, Tianmi was just like her name. She was always like a tiger and rarely used her brain. "I value the throne. Those people of Lai Mountain Hall are suitable to be soldiers and cannon fodder," Tianhu said with a gloomy and cruel smile. Everyone yearned to be the emperor. Stepping on the heads of all living beings and becoming the noblest person in the world, this was a new experience that no one had ever had before. Most likely, no one would be able to resist it. Not everyone was as bored as Dustless. For example, Tianhu. As the saying went, life is short, plants and trees are short. Wasn't it everyone's yearning to make use of this short life to bloom the most dazzling years? In this case, you can't blame us for being cruel. After thinking for a while, Tianzhong was not an indecisive person. He agreed immediately, "Let's take enough people and go to Yan's trouble now. It's best if she is obedient. If not, we will kill Tian Yen and her brother Tian Ci immediately. Then we will take over Lai Mountain Hall. After that, we will deal with the other hall leaders and unify the agriculture family. At that time, the second leader will be the hero leader." "Aha. You are right." Tianhu nodded with satisfaction and left excitedly. He went straight to the base of Lai Mountain Hall. About 2 hours later, the heavens didn't play nice. Dark clouds gathered in the depths of the sky, and a heavy rain was brewing. Boom boom boom. After an unknown period of time, perhaps a few short minutes or perhaps a few hours, the lightning in the void flickered incessantly, and a torrential downpour fell from the sky, covering the entire earth. Damn Tianyan. He dared to betray me. Damn it. Inside the morning hall of the former clan leader, Tianmeng, Tian who was roaring like a madman. After going around in a big circle, he was shocked to find that all the people in the base of Lai Mountain Hall had already left. There was only an empty morning hall left in the big room. Tian who was shocked and angry. Although he was happy that Tianyan helped him to plot against others, he was depressed that he was tricked. Damn it, damn it, damn it. The furious Tian who smashed Tianmeng's memorial tablet. He looked like he was about to explode. His hair stood on end and blue veins popped out on his fists. Big brother, do you think second miss will? Tianzhong narrowed his small eyes, which were flickering with a gloomy gleam, and said, ever since we succeeded in assassinating Ying Zheng, it seems that she has been obeying us in public but opposing us in private. You mean? Hearing this, Tian Hu's expression changed drastically. He was not an idiot. Naturally, he smelled a conspiracy. He said furiously, are you saying that she betrayed us and might have sided with the Qin army? It's not impossible. The smarter a person is, the more unreliable they are. Tianzhong nodded. He was very suspicious of Tianyan's whereabouts and motives. Damn it, I'll let you know the consequences of betraying me, Tian Hu. Tian Hu snatched a blazing torch from one of his subordinates and set the entire morning hall ablaze in an instant. Even the coffin of Tianmeng who had died, was not spared. He burned all of them into ashes. Retreat. Remember, if you find Tianyan, that stinking girl, kill her without mercy. Without thinking, Tianmeng went directly to other farming strongholds. His target was Shenong Hall. Second master, what are you? Tianzhong looked at Tian Hu, whose face had darkened in confusion, and said with confusion, are you going to make trouble for Shenong Hall? They are not to be trifled with. Even if they are not to be trifled with, I have to. Tian Hu looked stubborn. He also knew that he could not touch a tiger's butt, but sometimes, there were too many things that were beyond his control. He did not give Tian Hu any extra choice. Rolling his eyes, Tian Hu said in a deep voice, Lai Mountain Hall has betrayed us. Now the farming clan must be in chaos. We have to massacre Shenong Hall as a warning to others. But, Tianzhong was in a dilemma. He was afraid that even if Shenong Hall was destroyed, Chiyu Hall and Gonggong Hall would be greatly weakened. Damn Tian Hu, this hatred will be washed away with your blood in the future. In the dense forest not far away, seeing Tian Hu and the others leave, flashing figures in the forest quietly rushed out. They were Tianyan and the people of Lai Mountain Hall, who looked pale. This guy is so shameless. He even burned down the morning hall of the hall master. He used to call the hall master Big Brother, but now he did something worse than a beast. The disciples of Lai Mountain Hall were full of hatred, including Tianyan. Tianmeng was a good person, and his prestige in Lai Mountain Hall was unparalleled. Most of the disciples loved and respected him very much. But the embarrassing thing was that no one dared to make trouble for Tian Hu. This guy was very strong and his internal strength was unbelievably deep. If they challenged him, they would only be seeking their own death. I can only ask him for help. I hope Dustless will agree to my conditions. Tianyan subconsciously thought of Dustless's face. It seemed that except for Dustless, no one could suppress Tian Hu. Lai Mountain Hall attacked Chiyu Hall and Gonggong Hall with only one hall strength, which was asking for trouble. Tianyan was also desperate. Although her intelligence was unparalleled, her strength was really not flattering. Her younger brother was known as the #1 expert in the farmer's family. Tianyan did not want to drag him into this big trouble. Chapter 1975. Even though to a certain extent Tianyan also knew that her actions were foolish, she was still angered by Tian Hu's actions. This guy burned my father's morning hall? Tianyan's eyes were filled with tears. No one could bear such a thing, especially Tian Hu, who had always called her father Big Brother. She did not expect him to be so cruel and heartless at this moment. It was not difficult to see that Tian Hu's previous kindness was fake. Miss, why don't you sit on the mountain and watch? Tian Hu went to the Zhu family of Shenong Hall. In the end, both sides would suffer. If the Zhu family could be destroyed easily, they would have disappeared long ago. Beside Tianyan, some far-sighted disciples of Lai Mountain Hall suggested softly, no need to wait. Hearing this, Tianyan turned and left without saying anything. Her eyes were very determined. It seemed that she was going to find Dustless. Some things were absolutely intolerable. About 10 hours later on the Mirage. Miss Tian, do you want to invite me to destroy Tianhu of Chiyu Hall? Hearing this, Dustless's face was indescribably strange. If he did not know the inside story, it would be fine. The key was that Dustless was a time traveler, so he naturally knew some secrets very well. I remember that you are allies. Chiyu Hall, Lai Mountain Hall, Gonggong Hall, and Tianmi. You seem to have formed an alliance with each other. Dustless asked calmly. You know this kind of thing? Looking at Dustless meaningfully, Tianyin did not talk nonsense and said directly, I advised Tianhu to give up the plan of anti-Qin, but he refused. It seems that he intends to annex Lai Mountain Hall left by my father. That bastard also burned my father's mourning hall. I can't ignore it. Even if I have to die, I will make him pay with his blood. Damn it. Tianyin cursed angrily and then said with a confused face, I really don't understand why he has to fight against Qin. I have promised to give the position of hero chief to Tianhu. Miss Tian, you are smart all your life, but you are stupid now. Are you confused? Actually, the reason why he worked so hard to oppose Qin is very simple. Dustless was rather surprised, as he did not expect that Tianyin could not even understand such a basic question. Then he explained, everyone under the heavens is passionate about opposing Qin. No matter it is Yan Dan in the past or Tianhu now, including Zhao Gao and Li Si, there is only one reason behind all of this. And that is the position that Ing Zheng left for Tianyin. You mean, the position of emperor? After all, Tianyin was the #1 female strategist in the Farmers' Guild. She naturally knew what Dustless was talking about. Then why aren't you tempted? Calmly glancing at Dustless, Tianyin asked quietly, with your strength, it should not be a problem for you to overthrow the Qin state. Even the rebellion a while ago, if it were not for you, the seemingly powerful Qin state would have collapsed today. That's because you don't know my past. Hearing this, Dustless only revealed a faint smile and explained softly, as the old saying goes, one's life lasts only 1 year. This is only relative to humans. Some higher-level creatures have a lifespan that is far beyond your imagination. Naturally, they had experienced countless things. They did not have any desire for power and had long since faded away. Just like Xiao Meng of the Heaven sect of Taoism, not everyone pursues the so-called dream of becoming an emperor. However, at the very least, most humans are very interested in the position that is second only to the heavens. Tianhu is just one of them. What a strange guy. Tianyin did not understand what Dustless was talking about, but hearing Dustless's vicissitudes of life, he had indeed experienced much more than her. So, what do you think? Are you willing to help me deal with Tianhu? Tianyin shifted the topic back to the main track and looked at Dustless expectantly. Well, looking into Tianyin's eyes, Dustless was silent for a while, then nodded and agreed, although I am a selfish person, but thanks to you for helping me find the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon, there is no harm in helping you once. Besides, I promised Fu Su to help him destroy the farmer family. Leave this matter to me. After all, that group of small fries are frogs at the bottom of the well. They can't do anything. The reason why he was willing to help Tianyin this time was because of the gratitude sent by the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Moreover, he had promised Fu Su to help him destroy the farmer family's rebels. To some people such as Tianmi, Dustless would not admit to his promises. After all, the other party was shameless first. While cooperating with him, Tianmi also kept in touch with others. Dustless had always been disdainful of such people who dared to secretly poison others. However, Tianyin was different. She had at least the basic sincerity, unlike Tianmi who was wavering and did not even have a basic attitude. Lead the way, Miss Tian. Standing up and stretching, Dustless slowly walked over from the main seat. Lead the way. Hearing this, Tianyin was first stunned, then said speechlessly, just the 2 of us? Don't we need to bring the rest of the Yinyang school? About that, of course not. Dustless said calmly, I know that there are as many as 100,000 disciples in the farmer family, but forgive me for being blunt, most of them are a motley crew. Once they see that something is wrong, they will be like birds startled by the twang of a bough and collapse on their own. I alone am enough to deal with them. That's true. Tianyin smiled bitterly. Although Dustless's words were unpleasant to hear, it was the truth. More people meant that the quality would definitely drop. This was an unavoidable fact. But do you really have the confidence to defeat them? Otherwise, the 2 of us will be walking into a trap. Tianyin was still worried. He felt that Dustless was overestimating himself. Who knows? Glancing at Tianyin, Dustless teased, Dying under a peony flower is also a romantic thing. Although this is not bad, I haven't lived enough, so I can only let Tianhu and the rest die. Chapter 1976. Tianyin stared at Dustless. To be honest, she wasn't very happy or excited. Does this guy have an ulterior motive? Tianyin couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. He began to consider what Wu Chen's intentions were. Why are there so many people who like to treat other people's good intentions as cruel and unscrupulous? Seeing the hesitant Tianyin, Wu Chen immediately guessed that she had other thoughts. She was afraid that he would harm Lai Mountain Tang. Dustless couldn't help but sigh softly. You are not a fish. How can you know the joy of a fish? Don't you think it's interesting and vivid to watch a person die in panic? Interesting? Vivid? Tianyin raised her eyebrows and said coldly, with all due respect, I don't understand your principles, but now I can see that you are a vulgar man with bad taste. This is not vulgar or bad taste. I am exploring the nature of people. Glancing at Tianyin indifferently, Dustless said calmly, the strong wind knows the strong grass and the board knows the loyal minister. A person can only reveal his inner nature when he is most frightened and helpless. In the past, the people you saw were just a layer of skin draped over their bodies. Isn't your second uncle Tianhu like this? When he saw Miss Tian choose the Yin-Yang school, he immediately revealed his nature. This. Tianyin pursed her thin lips and found herself speechless. Although she felt that Dustless's words were unreasonable, what he said was also somewhat reasonable. It was at the critical moment that Tianhu's nature could be seen. He called Tianyin's father Big Brother, but he actually burned Tianmeng's morning hall. Apathetic and supercilious, this was Tianhu's nature. I heard that you, the head of the Confucian school, are illiterate, but your fallacious reasoning can make others speechless. Tianyin, who had no choice but to nod and lead the way. Haha, let's go. Seeing the Tianyin who was willingly convinced, Dustless was pleased with himself in his heart. In addition to his own strength, Dustless had practiced a god-level eloquence for hundreds of years. At this moment, in another direction. Kill all the people of Shenong Hall. In the wilderness, a group of barbaric slaughters were carried out. Both sides had bloodshot eyes. Between them, even if they belonged to the same faction in the past, at this moment, they were engaged in a life-and-death battle as if they were enemies. After Ying Zheng was killed, the enraged Qin army had turned the entire Mulberry Sea city upside down. Anyone who was suspicious was brought back and interrogated, trying their best not to let anyone escape. The farmers were also forced to move deep into the mountains to avoid being captured by the Qin army. Tianhu, are you crazy? Ying Zheng is dead and you are attacking Shenong Hall? What are you trying to do? If you want it, I'll give it to you. In a certain isolated and spacious area, the security was tight. Killing was going on all around and only this place was like heaven. The people from both sides were faintly restraining themselves. Shakue? Tianhu held up his hands and looked at the short man wearing a mask in front of him with a sneer. Old bastard Jew, you are still so childish and boring. You said you would give it to me. Do you think I am a child? Humph, Ying Zheng is dead. We don't need to kill each other. Everything is over. Zhu Jia's face was gloomy. He labeled Tianhu as a moron. The killing within the farmers would only make the enemies happy. Over? How can it be over? I still want to overthrow Fu Su and become the emperor. The Shakue is also mine, the emperor is also mine, and the world is also mine. Tianhu no longer concealed his madness and said bluntly, of course, if you are willing to kill yourself now, I will let Shenong Hall go. This kind of killing behavior is no different from setting fire to oneself. Gunye frowned. He hated this kind of extreme method. To put it bluntly, Tianhu just wanted to annex Shenong Hall and then gather all the forces of the farmers. With this as the basis, he would completely eradicate the entire Qin state. To think that there would be such an exciting show in the wilderness. What a pleasant surprise. An indifferent voice suddenly rang out in the sky. Everyone subconsciously looked into the distance and saw that in the sky, groups of flashes of light were quickly converging and gradually condensing into a human figure. Dustless. Gunye and Dustless could be considered old acquaintances. When he heard this voice, he knew that something was wrong. When he saw the mocking expression on Dustless' face, his expression became even more solemn. Oh no, Tianming and Xiaoyu, the two of you hurry up and escape. Gunye hurriedly urged Tianming and Xiaoyu to escape. Dustless was here and he did not have the confidence to stop him. This fellow was too strong to fight. He can fly. The farmers were all dumbfounded. Dustless's body was strangely floating in the sky. His clear eyes were emotionless as he looked down at everything. What an eyesore. Shoot him down. Tianhu shouted angrily. Being looked down at by Dustless made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Swish, swish, swish. Hearing Tianhu's order, the disciples of the Shinong Hall immediately took up their bows and shot at the sky. A rain of arrows immediately tore Dustless into shreds. Puchi, puchi, puchi. Dustless's body was pierced through repeatedly, but he was completely fine. His wounds were healed by the elemental energy and he was as good as new in an instant. He was completely unscathed. You don't know what death is. Seeing this, Dustless's face turned cold. Originally, he did not want to waste his time on this group of small fries. Would a giant like him fight with ants? There was no need for that at all. However, since these people had chosen to die, he would be letting them down if he did not send them to hell. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Large ripples appeared in the void all over the sky. Then, countless divine weapons emerged from the ripples. Treasure of the King. Chapter 1977. Gulp. Everyone was stunned when they saw the sky filled with light. Was there a need for such a large number of weapons? Taking a closer look, the entire sky was filled with a golden divine halo. What kind of strange trick is this? Do the school of Yin Yang and the Confucian school have such evil tricks? Tianhu was dumbfounded. Countless divine weapons filled the air. Even if each disciple of the school of agriculture needed 100 weapons to deal with them, this number was more than enough. Farewell, small fries. With a wave of his hand, the divine light that filled the sky poured down. Puchi, puchi, puchi. A massacre that was too horrible to look at immediately began. The bodies of countless disciples of the school of agriculture were pierced through, and they were attacked by tens of thousands of weapons. How miserable was this end? It was a blessing to be able to keep their corpses intact. Run. That guy is an evil ghost. How can there be such an evil ghost? He's a demon. Run. In an instant, the disciples of the school of agriculture were all killed by Dustless. Only a small number of disciples managed to escape, but they were all covered in wounds. Everyone looked at the cold figure in the sky in horror. Their faces were filled with fear and panic. Damn it. Tianhu was furious. He looked around and saw that the scene was bloody and cruel. In less than a minute, all the disciples of the Chiyu Hall had been killed by Dustless. Oh, you're not convinced? Dustless landed on the ground and looked at Tianhu mockingly. He said sarcastically, Tianhu, you want to be the emperor with your stupid appearance? Are you a pig? How dare you humiliate me in a battle royale? Tianhu was furious when he heard this. Dustless dared to call him a pig in front of the Zhu family and everyone else. Not to mention the hot-tempered Tianhu, anyone else would not have been able to tolerate this. Don't be fooled. If you get angered by Dustless, we will be defeated one by one. Gunya frowned and tried to dissuade Tianhu. This Tianhu was too stupid. Destroy them one by one? When he heard this, Dustless could not help but laugh, and a look of disdain appeared on his face as he said, I can understand if someone else said this, but Gunya, don't you think you're lying to yourself? You should know my strength very well. It wasn't that Dustless was looking down on them. Even if this group of people were to attack together, the effect would be next to nothing. Mr. Jean. Tianhu was too lazy to talk nonsense. With a wave of his hand, a middle-aged man with a gloomy face and a vicious look in his eyes walked out with a majestic gait. Seeing this, Dustless frowned and scolded loudly, Where did this handyman come from? If you don't want to die, get lost. Hearing this, the swordsman called Mr. Jin's lips trembled. Dustless's words made him very angry. What did he mean by doing odd jobs? Have you ever seen a handyman wield a sword? Preposterous. This was not the most important thing. Dustless looked at Mr. Jean as if he was looking at an ant, which deeply infuriated Mr. Jean. Clang, clang, clang. Mr. Jean unsheathed his sword, which glowed with a dangerous light. He glanced coldly at Dustless and charged forward. Nameless Junior, die. Seeing that this old man had overestimated himself and was courting death, Dustless naturally did not hold back. He immediately launched a fierce attack, and a dangerous ball of energy appeared at the tip of his finger. Void flash. Swish, swish, swish. The golden ball of energy was extremely fast, and it took only a few seconds to form. Then Dustless flicked his finger. Boom boom boom. A huge ball of fire appeared in the air. Before the swordsman called Mr. Jean could figure out what was going on, his body was destroyed by the merciless heat wave. He disappeared without a trace and not even a corpse was left behind. Boring. Dustless glanced at Tianhu, Gunia, and the rest with a bored expression. Next, or all of you can come at me together. Dustless's casual and disdainful tone infuriated everyone. I'll do it. An unexpected figure suddenly appeared. He stepped on the snow without leaving a single trace. It seemed like his lightness skills were extremely profound. It's another familiar face. So it's Daoji. After seeing who it was, Dustless suddenly smiled strangely. That's right, I have to thank you for the assassination incident previously, Daoji. Assassination incident? Daoji, who had intended to attack directly, was stunned by Dustless's words. He asked in confusion, "What are you talking about? I don't understand." Ayaya, how long has it been since that incident? Have you forgotten? Dustless smiled sinisterly. He then purposely reminded Daoji, "A few days ago you snuck into the elusive mirage and eavesdropped on my conversation with the moon goddess. That happened not too long ago." What? You discovered me? Daoji's eyes went wide, his face filled with disbelief. Then he roared furiously, "Impossible. If you've really discovered me, you shouldn't have told me the time of Ing Zheng's tour to the east and the time of his arrival in Mulberry Sea." This guy. Although Daoji was not very smart, there were still some who were more intelligent than others, such as Master Fan. His eyes flickered and his fists clenched. He seemed to have understood the conspiracy behind this. How rare. Fortunately, there are still some smart people among you. Seeing Gunia's awkward expression, Dustless mocked him loudly. That's right. I was the one who leaked the news of Ing Zheng's visit to the Mulberry Sea on purpose. My goal was to attract you rebels and capture all of you in one fell swoop. Then your plan will be ruined. You should know that Ing Zheng is dead, right? Daoji sneered. He felt that Dustless had shot himself in the foot. Idiots, haven't you figured it out yet? The person who killed Ing Zheng is me. Do you really think that the wrath of heaven killed Ing Zheng? A bunch of idiots. Chapter 1978. Dustless's words were like a huge boulder that fell into the deep sea, causing a huge ripple. Everyone was stunned on the spot, their bodies seemed to be imprisoned and unable to move. Among them, the one who reacted the most intensely was naturally the terrified Daoji. At first he was still proud of himself. After all, it was because of the information he obtained that they were able to kill Ing Zheng. Otherwise this guy might have lived a few more thoughts and Ing Zheng would not have died. As for those who died because of the mission, he could only say sorry. Since it was a mission, there must be some sacrifices. All in all, it was worth it to be able to kill Ing Zheng. Impossible, 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 absolutely impossible. The thief shook his head like a rattledrum. Looking at Wu Chen's handsome face, which was full of ridicule, he felt a heavy blow to his heart. All along he had been proud of himself. After all, he was the one who got the information. But now, what made Daoji collapse was that all of this was a trap set by Dustless. His great contribution had also become his greatest humiliation. Impossible? Dustless curled his lips in disdain and humiliated loudly, "Daoji, you are an idiot. Do you really think your movement technique is unparalleled? This is too funny." Huff huff huff. Hearing Dustless's harsh mockery, Daoji's face turned red with anger and his body trembled. "Brother Daoji, you must stay calm. Don't be fooled." Master Fan quickly reminded him, hoping that Daoji would calm down. But it seemed to be useless. Human nature is indeed fragile. Looking at the dazed robber Ji, Dustless casually picked up a blade of grass and held it in his mouth. He sighed with emotion. Once a person's belief collapses, this person will inevitably become a walking corpse. There's no need to even kill him. Dustless glanced at the people of Xiang clan and said indifferently, "Next." As for Daoji, Dustless gave him a quick glance and ignored him. It was not hard to see that this guy was ignored. Perhaps, Daoji had fallen into endless fear for the rest of his life. The people of the Farmers clan and the disciples of the Xiang clan all glared at Dustless. They were all filled with righteous indignation and hatred for Dustless. How could you be so despicable? The clear voice looked over, full of confidence, like the embodiment of justice, causing people to raise their eyebrows. This is... Dustless's line of sight slightly froze. He looked in the direction of the voice, and a young man with an imposing appearance, like a god descending to the mortal world, came into view. Xiaoyu, get back here. When Master Fan and the others saw Dustless staring at Xiaoyu, their faces filled with worry. They tried to protect him, but he was too strong. He forced his way out of the crowd. So it's the future hegemon of Western Chu, Xiaoyu. What advice do you have for me? Dustless looked at Xiaoyu with a smile. When he saw the righteous indignation on Xiaoyu's face and thought of Xiangyu's actions in history, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. I know you are born with extraordinary strength, but do you think you can defeat me? You sinister villain, how dare you scheme against everyone? You are so despicable. Xiaoyu was not as shrewd as Master Fan and the others. He said straightforwardly, if you have the guts, let's duel face to face. What's the point of playing such tricks? TSK, your ability to play the blame game has reached perfection. Even I can't catch up with you. Dustless gave Xiaoyu a thumbs up and praised, I also wonder just who are the ones who have been hiding here and there like rats all along. Of course it's you, you big bastard. The other people of the farmers' clan also stood up to support Xiaoyu, but they were all very afraid. The laws of the Qin state are strict and the taxes are harsh. Those who commit injustice are doomed to self-destruction. Since ancient times, such a state will inevitably be destroyed. People like you will also be crushed by the wheels of history. Xiangyu's voice was sonorous and his eyes were shining. He believed in Dustless. You're right, Xiaoyu. Wu Qin nodded and agreed. Starting from Xia, Shang and Zhou, every country collapsed in the end. In the end, it was caused by the muddle-headed and tyrannical monarchs of their countries. This is very true, but there is one thing that you are wrong about. What is it? Xiaoyu raised an eyebrow and asked. You don't know? Young people really only know how to be hot-blooded. Dustless's lips curled into a playful smile, and his tone became a few times more contemptuous. The land under my feet is not a simple piece of land, nor is it a country or two. I'm talking about the whole world. History will prove who is the master and who is the guest. Yes, history will prove everything. You have only won one round. Xiaoyu nodded in agreement, but he did not see the strange smile on Dustless's face. What a pity. You have lost the right to be chosen by history. Now turn into dust. Dustless laughed sinisterly, and a majestic murderous aura locked onto Xiaoyu. He said coldly, history will choose the final winner to be the master of the world. This is not wrong at all. But sorry, I forgot to say something just now. It's not too late to add it now. The one who controls history and decides the direction of the world is me. Now, I declare that you can be swept into the trash heap of history. The reason is that you are too hypocritical. His eyes gently landed on Xiaoyu's head, and his demonic eyes slowly moved, emitting a terrifying aura. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Xiaoyu was evaporated in an instant. Heavenly reflection. Boundless black flames burned on Xiaoyu's body without any warning. He did not even have time to scream before he was burned by the violent black flames. Young lord. The followers of the Xiang clan were dumbfounded as they watched this tragic scene. They did not even have time to save Xiaoyu before he was killed and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1979. Young Master. The lackeys of the Xiang clan all looked at Wu Chen with hatred. Their ferocious and hateful expressions were clearly visible. Their eyes were full of rage as if they wanted to kill Wu Chen with 1,000 cuts. Only then would they be happy. What kind of gentleman is that? Bah! Dustless ridiculed with disdain. Xiaoyu said that he was helping the tyrant, but what about himself? Although Xiangyu was a great hero in history, he was also a butcher. Xiangyu had organized several massacres in succession. First, after conquering the Qin kingdom, he burned down the entire Xianyang. At least 200,000 people were killed by Xiangyu, and most of them were ordinary people who had no strength to truss a chicken. And this kind of massacre was absolutely not a simple 1 or 2 times. There were records of as many as 6 times. Therefore, Wu Chen felt that Xiaoyu's hypocrisy was laughable. What qualifications did he have to say that Wu Chen was helping the evildoer? Well, let's move on to the next one. Dustless waved his hand. His words made everyone vomit blood. Don't waste time. Let's fight together. Tian, who did not dare to be reserved at this moment. Originally, he wanted to make trouble for the Shenong Tang, but now it seemed that his plan was ruined. It would be God's mercy if he was not destroyed by Dustless. Cough, cough, cough. If you want to fight, please stop him first. Situ Wanli, the hall master of the Four Mountains Hall, put on a look of indifference. He put all the responsibility on Tianhu and betrayed him without any integrity. You are the only one who wants to be the emperor. We, the Shenongtang in the Four Mountains Hall, don't have that kind of plan. Zhu Jia, a short fat man with a mask, echoed. Puff. Hearing this, Tianhu was so angry that his blood was boiling. Finally he spat out a mouthful of bright red blood. Tianhu pointed at Situ Wanli and Zhu Jia with trembling hands and shouted angrily, "Bastard, we are all farmers. Don't you understand that we are interdependent? Without the lips, the teeth will be cold." Hearing this, Zhu Jia continued to sneer. "When you attacked the Shenongtang, why didn't I see you say that? Now that you're in trouble, you deserve it. You damned bastard." Tianhu flew into a rage. His nostrils flared up like a cow's and his eyes turned red. The people of Shenong Hall are not easy to kill. Dustless frowned slightly. As for the people of Shenong Hall, this special force was really not easy to deal with. The Zhu clan of the Shenong clan had a close relationship with Lord Changping. There were even rumors that the Shenong clan was a life-saving talisman that Lord Changping had left for Fu Su. Lord Changping was Fu Su's uncle. Therefore, Fu Su could destroy the other clans but not the Shenong clan. In fact, Fu Su considered the Shenong clan as one of his own from the start. However, according to Dustless's thoughts, Shenongtang wasn't a good person either. He might as well exterminate them. However, Dustless had no choice but to give him some face and muddle through. But speaking of which, other than Xiang Yu, I've also seen a great figure. His gaze was fixed on the man behind the Zhu clan. This man was quite handsome and his eyes were deep. He seemed to be very smart, and there was a smile on his face that didn't care about anything. "I'm Lu Ji." As if sensing Dustless's gaze, this man stood out and cupped his fist to greet him. He was very polite, and the first impression he gave people was that he was very friendly and approachable. This guy. Hearing this, Dustless only stared at him deeply and didn't say anything. This Lu Ji was actually Lu Bang, and his reputation had even surpassed the current Emperor Fu Su. "Tianhu, you will definitely die today." At the same time, Tianyin, who had arrived, let out a cold voice. Looking at the corpses on the ground, he was shocked. "You did all of this?" Tianyin was dumbfounded. He had a new understanding of Dustless's strength. "It's as you see." Dustless nodded and admitted. He didn't care about Tianyin's shocked gaze. He had destroyed many worlds and destroying Chiyu Hall was nothing. "You traitors of the farmers' clan, I'll exterminate all of you." A cornered dog would jump over a wall. Tianhu, who had been driven mad, also unleashed his bestial nature. He didn't even care about Dustless. He turned around and rushed toward the Zhu clan. "Bone Demon, Tianzhong, let's go together and kill them all." Tianhu didn't forget to call out to his two underlings. However, he didn't know that a black shadow had already blocked his way. "Get out of my way, Dustless." Seeing Dustless blocking his way, Tianhu angrily rebuked, "This is the internal matter of the farmers' clan. Don't interfere. Otherwise I'll even." "You're going to kill me too? You're so arrogant." But Dustless changed the topic. He stared at Tianhu's stomach and advised, "Next time when you say something like this, please take a look at your stomach." "What do you mean?" Hearing this, Tianhu was stunned. Then a scorching pain came from his stomach. He subconsciously looked at his stomach, and his pupils suddenly widened several times. When did this start?" Tianhu was stunned. He didn't know when it started. His stomach had been pierced by Dustless, and he was bleeding non-stop. However, he didn't even have any basic reaction. It was as if nothing had happened. If it weren't for Dustless's reminder, Tianhu really wouldn't know anything. "Die in peace. You can't be the emperor just because you want to." Dustless waved his hand with a look of disdain. This guy was obviously the arrogant type. He was not suitable to be the emperor. He was even worse than Hu Hai, who had been killed before. It was better for him to die early and purify the world. Almost all the ordinary disciples of Chiyu Hall had been wiped out by Gate of Babylon. Occasionally the fish that escaped the net were disabled. Now that Tianhu, the hall master, was dead, Chiyu Hall was gone. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.